It's going down. It's going down, 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 down. It's going down, down, it's going down.
Since 1966, we have viewed walls not as obstacles, but as opportunities. From the big walls of Yosemite to the high peaks of the Himalaya, we were searching for a personal kind of freedom. In this pursuit, we found a community, strengthened by different stories, experiences, and perspectives. This community has shown us that the only way forward is together.
Got nothing better to do. Might as well go climbing, right?
Remember when no dream was too big? And you could fearlessly face the unknown. You still can. When you have a rock you can depend on for life, you'll be unstoppable. Like the millions of people who rely on Prudential for financial planning and investing. Who's your rock?
We fight the battles no one hears about.
We drop into the middle of firefights to rescue others.
And act as one-man air traffic control towers.
We're the ones who go before all others. Join the fight.
Whether you're alpine climbing or cragging after work, Gnarly Nutrition is here to help you push your possible.
Focus on fueling like you focus on your next set. Fuel with Gnarly Nutrition and push your possible.
I'm going all the way up. I'm going all the way up. I'm letting go of my heart. Everything that holds me down. No, no.
Welcome to the 2022 USA Climbing National Team Trials presented by YETI. Today is the lead semifinal round, and we are coming to you live from Stone Summit Climbing and Fitness in beautiful Kennesaw, Georgia. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Megan Martin, joined by Alex Johnson, and we are so excited to be here for the lead semifinals after what was a really exciting round of qualifiers.
Very exciting. The routes looked really hard. We had a couple tops for both the men and the women, and I think I'm really excited to see what happens in semis this morning.
I know, me too. I can't wait. And again, we're here with an audience, no masks, everybody's happy, excited to get to climbing, and it's already been such a great week, so we're ready for that last day of competition. So for today's format, the athletes will each have one route to climb. 26 men and 26 women will be climbing. The top 8 will go to finals. 38 points available for the women's route, 40 points available for the men's route, 1 point for each hold, and that plus for that forward motion. And I gotta say, these routes, having looked at them, are very difficult. Let's take a quick look at the routes for a second. Here is the women's route, those black and green holds. And one thing to note about both of the routes, but this one specifically, is it is an extremely powerful route. Lots of pockets and small crimps as you get to the top. The crimps are actually little giblets attached to those bigger black volumes. And one thing that's really difficult is that there isn't really a place to rest after, honestly, the first few moves. And then at the very end, there's going to be a very dynamic move that will give us some pretty big whips
all those
if
big,
anyone gets up there.
Flat holds. This is going to be a true test of power endurance, like you were saying, with no spots to rest.
And on top of it, just with the resting, you also aren't really having a chance to chalk up. And honestly, I mean, the humidity can play a role in that. It is pretty cold here today, but it can be a little tricky in that sense. So I think it's going to be a really good route for the women to get on. And here's a look at the men's route, the pink and black holds. Again, a lot of power involved, a lot of finger strength and body position and tension going on here. This is where it starts to really turn up here, starting on that pink crimp and going through this section. And there's a knee bar right here where you can kind of rest and then have to do some awkward movements. But then from here on out, it's really just on you the whole time, and you really have to keep your body in check. Note those X's right there. So the blue X, you cannot pass that hold without clipping the draw that has the blue X. If an athlete does that, they will actually be called down, and their score will stop there, and that's a safety thing. So they're allowed to clip anything before the blue X. So if they want to clip off that pink hold, totally fine. But if they pass that volume, that blue pill volume, and they haven't clipped, they'll be called down. Something interesting about the men's route, it's more of a technical finish here. A little bit of, I mean, honestly,
thin up top.
It's very thin up top after all of the wrapping.
And it looks like a bouldering finish.
Yeah, it's very much so like a bouldering finish. So that'll be really interesting. And I hope we get to see someone up there.
Standout from yesterday was Megan Lynch.
She had a great day with one top. She actually came out pretty early in the round and set the tone on her first climb with almost getting a top on it, and then following it up with her second climb and being able to get that top.
Off the finish move of the
She fell off going to the hold right before the finish, but was the high point for a very, very long time in the round. And then Melina Costanza just did a little bit better than her. She actually did fall going to that finish hold on her first route and then topped the second one. So those two women are ones to watch, especially because that route is really powerful and a lot of endurance is involved. They should do well on it. And for the men, Colin Duffy, he got a top on one of his routes and then fell very close to the top on the other one and was looking very on form yesterday. And then looking at this route today, another one who should do well on it because he's got that skill set. And Jesse Grouper, so he topped one route and he did top another one, but unfortunately he timed out. So he was the only one to really get the two tops, but he only got scored for the one because he timed out on the other route. but it has to feel good to have actually climbed all the way to the top, even though he wasn't awarded it. So
definitely confidence inspiring having topped both routes, but the walls here in Kennesaw are so tall that timing out seemed to happen quite a bit yesterday.
Yeah, it was kind of a theme yesterday, but let's quickly take a look at this start list. A lot of familiar names here, some new ones, but Megan Lynch we already mentioned, as did we mentioned Melina Costanza, Quinn Mason. Alex, what do you think about this list?
I think there's a really stiff competition here. It's really nice to see Kyra Condi actually at the top of this after kind of a hard bouldering round, and seems to be that she's turning into a lead climber, which maybe it suits her. It'll be really cool to see how she does today. Quinn, our national champion, also sitting in the top of the pack. And then we have Chloe Koskoy, who was in bouldering finals, Sienna Koff, Kylie Cullen, all in semis. Julia Duffy also is usually a standout. She qualified a little lower than we expected to see her, but see what she can do today and see if she can secure one of those 8 spots in finals.
Awesome, and let's take a look at that men's running order. Lots of familiar names again. Nice to see Kai Leitner in here. He just missed out of semis for bouldering. Jesse Gruber, Colin Duffy, Ben Hanna. Ben Hanna was on a tear yesterday. Also one that looked like he could get 2 tops and then ended up timing out a little early. What do you think about this list?
I think this is an awesome group of guys. I think looking at Palmer Larson and Ross Fulkerson, they're sitting in the middle of the pack. And there are 2 guys I think I would expect to see a little higher. Tim Kane and Joe Goodacre, also some names that we're really familiar with. And yeah, I'm really excited to see where things shake up here.
And Luke Muring is in this semifinal, and actually it was his birthday yesterday, so I'm sure he's really happy to have had a great day of climbing and looking to do some more here today. We've got a few minutes before we get that competition started, so we're going to just take a second and hang out and check out the views and get this competition going momentarily. Quick look at some of the route setters for this lead competition. On the far right, you have Ryan Sewell. He is the chief route setter, so that's Ryan Sewell and his crew just, chatting about the routes a little bit more, trying to maybe predict what might happen. And I got to spend a lot of time with them yesterday, going over the routes, watching them kind of tweak it and figure out what exactly they needed to do to create the most competitive competition. And the man in the orange there, Marshall Henderson, he will be joining us in the booth later, and he is the head route setter at the Stone Summit gym, so he knows everything about this gym, the local man, and you'll get to hear from him later. But looks like we're getting ready to have our first 2 competitors come out. Campbell Saranopoulos on the left, Adam Shahar on the right. And I forgot to mention earlier when we looked at that route, the women's route, the start is actually a dynamic start. You actually want to run at the wall, throw a palm down on the left with your left hand on top of this black volume, and then you jump up off the ground onto this green pinch. So
That's going to be exciting to watch.
It's aggressive
And
right off the start.
Nerve-wracking for sure. It's
very nerve-wracking.
Cruel of the setters to put the first
I don't know
move
about
on the
cruel.
route
It's definitely
as a jump
exciting.
start.
I will
It is
say
exciting for sure.
I will say it's not necessarily a hard move. It's just committing, and to have the women have to do that right off the bat, as Campbell Serenopoulos doesn't actually make it, so that will be her attempt. Unfortunately, that is devastating. She just didn't get high enough, as Adam Shahar is off to a good start on the men's semifinal route.
We've been noticing a lot of more bouldering-like moves on the lead climbs, like we mentioned for the men's semifinal route. The finish is more bouldery. Let's take a look back at Campbell's start attempt here.
She did have a good run-up. She just honestly should have started a little bit. She just had it. Maybe start back a little bit or kind of run to the wall with a little more
gusto.
aggression. Yeah, because she totally could have done that. I think that she just didn't have the snap she needed to make that happen. She doesn't seem too upset. She's like, well, that's how it goes sometimes. It is a very different start. You don't usually see a dynamic start like that. So Adam Shahar is getting into this first wrap section here. That's nice toe hook there. You can also throw a heel hook on the right side, but this is where it starts to get a little tricky, and this next move is quite committing and starts to get more strenuous here.
It's nice to see all these volumes on the wall at our team trials event. I know for World Cups they set with a lot of volumes, and it's a lot more body tension and position and not so much just grab and pull, and I think this style of climbing is going to help prepare our national team for heading over to compete.
100%, and really nice commitment to that move, to that crimp hold that his feet had to cut on, so he is in a really nice stance here where he can kind of lean on his left leg a bit more and kind of sink into his hips, taking that pressure off of his arms for a second, because again, these routes are both so strenuous, and any chance you can find a rest, you have to take it, but there aren't a lot available.
That's something that I was talking to a few of the athletes about who have done lead World Cups, and my minimal experience doing lead World Cups. The difference is that you're never really comfortable, and I think a lot of the times in U.S. events in the past, it's been hard routes, but there's always a foot right where you want it, and I think the difference is when you're doing World Cups is there's not a foot, or the foot's not where you want it, and you have to sort of get used to that feeling of being comfortable, being uncomfortable.
100%, and I think that these routes represent that very well. Adam Shahar nicely into that knee bar, which is a nice comfortable position where he can again let off some of that pressure on his arms, but this next move into this, there's a slope where, his foot's trying to get back in there, which is a lot of core strength.
Save.
Very smart decision making there. The fact that his foot cut, instead of trying to get back in, he decided to start moving forward, so he should get that plus there. And that's the most important thing when you are, there is that strategy here. If you feel like you're falling, you got to fall up if you can.
Exactly. Make it look like you're doing positive movement to try to get that plus, because the difference between finals and not finals can come down to positive movement.
Yeah, so very great execution on his part there. We should have his score there in a second. The judges just taking a second to make sure he agrees with what they've decided to give him as a score. He was right into that second hard part of the route. That first foot cut early on is kind of the start of, okay, I'm in it now. And then that next section continues it on after you're in that knee bar for a second. So kind of get into the meat of it. Good performance, though, from Adam Shahar. And again, unfortunate for Campbell Serenopoulos to not be able to make that happen. But
I'm hoping we don't see that happen at all for the rest of the round.
I hope we don't either. I was worried about that because it is such a different approach to a start. And back in the day with USA Climbing, for lead routes, we used to have start holds, but we have switched everything to the IFSC scoring system. So the way it works is whatever hold you can touch from the ground, that's where you can start. No tape necessary. Looks like he's going to get a score of 18 plus. Good first climber out for the men. Mira Capacchione just sizing up. Looks like she's going to just go with a more it's still dynamic, but less of a run-up approach. She is a lot taller than Campbell, Mira being 5'8" and Campbell being 5'1", so for Campbell, using that momentum, very necessary. Wow, from the back, he looks like Jesse Gruber.
Just like
it's
Jesse,
so wild. William Moss on the right. will be starting the men's route.
That's quite the height difference between Mira and Campbell.
It is a very big height difference. There's a few women in the field that are 5'1", 5'2", which makes it kind of tricky when you have a lot of athletes that are in the 5'6" to 5'9" range. So that's always interesting for the route setters to have to try to manage that aspect. Mira off to a really great start. Looks like she's finding some good flow. That move right here, moving into that pocket. This is probably the best rest you have on the entire route for the women.
Which is unfortunately only 3 clips in.
Exactly.
I would benefit from this for sure because I would only get 4 clips in. But
also making a really smart choice there to clip that next draw from that hold, because the next few moves, the holds are not as good as William Moss tries to figure out this wrap section of the men's route. Choosing to bump in and get the heel hook here, a good choice as well. A few different ways to do that there. As long as you commit to a movement, it's always the best way to go about it, especially when you're climbing on routes that have many, many moves and require a lot of endurance and good decision making. Actually, speaking of that, that's really important to talk about. Both of these routes are kind of cryptic. So you really need to be committed to your choice, and because even if you can't figure it out, it's better to commit, because
for sure,
if you take too long kind of trying to figure it out, you can find yourself in a bad position. This knee scum she has here is actually really smart too, in terms of getting a little bit more of a rest, just because there aren't so many options.
Ooh, foot slip, William.
Never want that to happen, but sometimes that is the way it goes. And he did have nice flow, which is kind of a bummer to see that happen.
And the men's route does seem a little more heavy on the subtle body position side, where the women's route, as you said, is really powerful, and I think the men's route is more subtle, and the themes are possibly opposite than how we usually see them. Usually we get the women's route is like a little more subtle. It's really cool to see them switching it up, making the guys sort of have to climb more gently, and the women kind of have to ramp up a little bit.
100%. Mira looking really strong here. Good idea to clip from that hold. Looks like, looks like William Moss will get a score of 50, I think it's at 15 plus, 14 plus there. As Mira tries to set up for this move. Now, there's a couple ways to do this here. You can either cross or you can bump. The bump's a bit easier, but she's going to go with the cross. And if she can, since she's a little taller, she might be able to keep her foot on, which is nice. But we'll see a lot of women probably cut feet there. But lucky for her, she was able to keep her foot on, which will be really helpful.
Big lock off pull here.
Really
Nice
good
catch.
effort. This is a great fight here, because this is where it's really starting to ramp up. And see, she had to fight to get that left hand, but then she can kind of sit on her heel more. So even though she's tired, she can maybe get a little back, although it looks like she might be a little too tired. So going for points here would be really smart for her.
Right. A little too pumped to clip, so when that's the case, you sort of just rev the engine up and grab as many holds as you can.
Exactly. Or if you're a boulderer like us, that's kind of your goal
It's game
from the
over.
start.
Yeah, totally.
Just grab holds.
Grab pull.
Nice recovery there, though, by Mira.
Really
getting
really
that
nice.
clip. Again, go ahead.
Usually when you see an athlete like that start to chicken wing, it's kind of game over, and she was able to chicken wing and then sort of put her elbow back down. So when you're really pumped like that and your elbow starts to stick out, it's usually because you are pulling out on the hold instead of down on the hold. So you're so close, so pumped that she was able to sort of lock it back in.
Exactly, and very good climbing there from Mira Capacchione. It was interesting because she decided not to clip there, which is probably smart, again, getting those extra points. But that next section, I'm excited to see more athletes get there, because she was kind of out of sequence there. It's a little easier if you grab that higher hold with your left hand and then you actually come under to an undercling, and then you're going to cross off that. But we'll see if anyone can do it out of sequence. I would be really, really interested to see that. But great climbing from Mira, off to a great start, and that will be the women's high point for now. Has to talk to the judges, and she's going to get that 27 plus. So a really great score. I mean, it's a very hard route. I think that we actually won't see a lot of women get even that high, but we'll have to wait and see how it ends up going. Again, it's all about route reading and making sure you keep your heart rate down, your breathing's your breathing's doing well. A little stutter there. Ava Kovtunovic. Actually, it's Kovtunovich. I've been practicing this one. Kovtunovich. And Daniel Seo up to put up their attempts on the men's and women's semifinals routes. Oh. And Ava able just to jump up there.
Both hands, definitely a different tactic. I wonder if we'll see more girls doing that.
Again, another one of our taller climbers, though, at 5'8". I think it's all going to depend on your height.
Right.
Actually, Kylie Close will be coming up after her, and she's 6 feet tall, so she's probably going to have no trouble getting on that start. But Danny also off to a great start on men's number 1. These opening moves, not so difficult, just kind of getting you in the flow of the route itself, and then kind of ramping up as you go.
What do you think? I see a lot of volumes and flat holds, especially on the women's route. Do you think that skin is going to become an issue, or maybe, like you said earlier, chalking?
I think chalking will definitely be an issue because there's a lot of those little giblets attached to the flat holds. I think that it will save their skin a bit more because the holds that are on there aren't as textured as the volumes themselves. But after all the climbing a lot of these athletes have done, since a lot of them were in the bouldering discipline and the speed discipline, it's likely going to be a little painful, but again, you have that adrenaline coming with the competition itself, so you don't have to think about your skin as much as you would if you weren't in a competition.
Absolutely. A lot of the bouldering athletes who are in finals bleeding from their fingertips, but it's nothing a little good old vitamin I can't help. Vitamin I being ibuprofen.
Exactly. So true. That and a little salve, and I think they'll be okay.
I'd like to thank ibuprofen for sponsoring this event. Just kidding.
Just wishful thinking. Danny in a great spot here. He kind of had a moment down low where he got a little overextended, and I think he handled it better, as Ava's kind of looking a little pumped. Again, this section of the route is really powerful, and you're in these awkward positions and having to go off of bad holds to worse holds. Oh, just undershoots that crimp on the right side, Danny Seo.
He maybe thought it was going to be better than it was and chose to go a little more dynamic, and I think getting a foot up might have been a better method at that moment. Especially
because that route is so strenuous, the more you can keep your feet on, the better off you're going to be.
I know exactly what hold that is too, and it's small. Also, it's like a half pad edge.
Yep, and falling off that hold is never fun too. It really hurts.
Speaking of skin.
Yeah. Ava's setting up here to get to that next hold. Again, you can bump here or cross, but it kind of forces you to want to cross. A little heel slip there, unfortunately for her, but great climbing. We'll have to see how that pans out for her later on. I'm so interested to see more of the women do this start.
I know. Yeah, really unfortunate heel slip. She didn't quite look that tired, and oftentimes when we see feet slip or pop, it's because we lose tension a little bit, and so the weight comes off of the foot, and the point of shoes, climbing shoes, is friction between the rubber and the texture of the hold. So the more weight and tension that you put on the foot, the more friction you get, so the more it'll stay. And so core might have been a little tired for that heel to slip. You want to keep tension on those feet.
And in that body position too, sometimes you can kind of find yourself off balance for a second, and that kind of, if you aren't keeping the tension, turns the heel off in a wrong direction for a second, and then you will end up slipping occasionally. Honestly, that's always a fear of mine.
Yeah, for sure.
When you're in that kind of a position and you're going to clip, you're like, isn't it still?
Especially with lead, only getting one attempt.
Exactly. And I mean, that happened to Adam Ondra this past year. He was in that heel hook at the one of the World Cups. I think it was Innsbruck, and he just fell out of the heel. That's literally my biggest nightmare.
Yeah.
Up next, we have Sophia Herman for the women and Charlie Barron for the men. Sophia just sizing up this jump. Nice. Actually, I was nervous because she didn't take so much of a run-up.
No, I was holding my breath.
I will say one thing about the run-up is if you do run up from far away, you might have too much power and you could end up running into the wall. So maybe it's not a bad idea to kind of come a little closer. Sophia working her way nicely through the start of this women's route as she kind of navigates these volumes, which those body positions they're not so bad, but standing on the volumes, they're kind of sandy sometimes, so you feel like a little uncomfortable, and then you have these big cross moves on these pockets. So
this move looks hard, actually. This move
is pretty hard. It is pretty hard. Choosing to clip there, which is really smart. She didn't want to get too high. You can also clip off of the pocket, but just in case. Looks like she's uncertain of how to cross. It is an awkward move. Pocket is good, but your body position is weird. And then again, she's a little smaller, so when you're coming below, it can feel out of reach, and it feels like you might not be able to get into it. Yeah, she's only 5'2" with a +2, so she's on the shorter side of the competition.
And the way that pocket is set, the body position leads you to, it feels better when you're above it, and coming in that low and being that short, it's going to feel really bad until you can move your body into a position that makes it feel better when you're opposing it.
Exactly. Charlie Barron just trying to figure out this flip section here.
Let's go, Charlie. Come on, Sophia.
Take a look at that clock on the right side. That clock is for Charlie.
Let's go, Charlie.
The judges are manually keeping track of Sophia's time.
It's hard with both athletes coming out at the same time and really only having one running clock. If they don't quite get on at the exact same time, then we're going to have to start the timers at a different time. So the clock you see on the right will be for the men's.
Charlie kind of spent a little more time than he probably would have liked to on that kind of wrap part, but it looks like he's still okay, although I think he's starting to get tired here. Sophia looking pretty good moving through this section of the women's route. Oh, starting to look a little tired though, having trouble clipping there. This part is a little awkward. She's gonna fire up and see if she can get a heel hook in order to clip. It's a smart idea. The hold she's on, that one is better. She's gonna go with the bump method, which is smart, especially being smaller, because she's likely to cut, and to have the left hand on the better hold is much better.
She chose to jump out of the heel position, which I think it would be easier if you just switch the heel to a toe and generate more power off the leg and the quad there. It's pretty hard to jump out of a heel hook, so I think 100%. She was just pumped and going for points, and she will get that plus.
Yeah, which is always smart as far as decision making goes. Charlie recovering well from kind of tricky start with body positions. If he can get into that knee bar, it'll be really good for him to be able to rest for a second, but he's going to have to fight really hard to get here.
He's so extended here in that heel. I think it's going to be really hard for him to hold this swing.
Yeah, just a little too hard. If that was on a boulder, no problem, but after already doing 15, 16 moves, it's a whole nother story.
Right. And sometimes it's hard, like speaking as a climber who's 5'9" myself, you get extended in these positions, you can rely on sort of like using your reach, and you don't like putting your feet up higher because you're uncomfortable, and so he was just a little bit spread out, and then when you get that spread out, it's really hard to hold that momentum.
Yeah, really, really hard. That's the tricky part, right, of lead climbing in general. You really want to keep all 4 points on if you can, but then if you find yourself in a position like that, all of a sudden you're forced to let your feet come off, and it can be so aggressive that it's just too much to handle. Oh, Charlie's struggling to get that knot out. Oh, that's the worst. Can't they help him with that? That's not, I mean,
he looks like he's trying harder to do this than on the route.
Yeah. Like, come on, somebody come help him.
Somebody get this man a scissors.
Finally, he's got it out of there. 18 points, so they are not giving him that plus, actually. So we'll have to see how that plays out later. Quick look at our standings so far. Mira Capacchione with that high point for the women, followed by Sophia Herman, Eva Kutanovic, and Campbell Serenopoulos. And on the men, Adam Shahar, Charlie Barron, William Moss, and Danny Seo. And you know, you can follow along with these scores at usaclimbing.org, and obviously you're watching us on the YouTube right now, but if your friends aren't, you should tell them to too. Up next for the women, we have Kylie Close. And for the men, it will be Stefan Fellner. One thing I noticed yesterday during the qualifiers is a lot of the athletes kind of forgot to take their masks off, and halfway up you would just see masks dropping to the ground.
Or being pulled down below their face.
And don't forget, Kylie Cullen is your speed team trials champion and newly on that speed team for the U.S. team. Stefan Fellner getting going on the men's route. Now, looking at this route, this is a route that I think Stefan could do really well on. I think it's just going to come down to how he reads it. Another one of those athletes who excels in the lead discipline. Lots of heel hooks, lots of toe hooks on both of these routes. Really making sure your flexibility is exercised. Hopefully everyone stretched this morning. I didn't.
I didn't either.
It's okay. I'm sitting down. Not too worried about it. I love this wrap section on the men's. It's not super obvious, and you kind of have to find the right body position and find the method that works best for you. And some of the men choose to wrap the bottom of the volume or go onto the top, but Stefan that time just kind of made some room on that hold to make space for that heel hook.
He made that look really smooth.
He did, and I think that's going to reward him well moving forward because he didn't spend a lot of time there. We've seen a lot of the guys kind of fiddle and try to flusterly, I don't think that's a word, but figure it out.
It's the morning.
It's fine. The morning,
it's the morning and we didn't stretch our brains. We didn't stretch our brains.
Exactly. But that moving through that quickly will be really helpful if he wants to get higher on the route. Kylie in a nice position too. As far as the women's route goes, probably one of the other positions where you can rest for a little bit. This move here too is actually pretty big. Kylie, a Stone Summit athlete. This is her home gym, so she's climbed on these walls a lot, which, especially when it comes to the lead climbing, when you climb at a gym and you get to compete on the walls, it is really helpful because you know what it feels like to be up there on the wall for that long, how the angles feel. Granted, I will say most of these athletes, because they're all quite young, have done many a youth national at this gym. Because
I think 8.
Yeah, it was like 8 years straight that youth nationals was hosted here. So
it definitely can be beneficial, especially knowing where you are on the wall. So for athletes who do climb at Stone Summit, you can see where the color changes, and usually where the color changes, there might be an angle change. And so you can kind of tell where you are at and how much energy to expend.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Kylie Cullen, unfortunately, coming off at the lip there. She did a really good job. She put the toe on, which, again, I agree with you. Being able to put the toe on there allows you that extra power to propel yourself up to that next hold. But it looks like she just was a little too pumped to make it happen.
Stefan's got the chicken wing going on here on the men's route. Little shakes help so much.
Oh, he didn't get into the knee bar, which was probably a big mistake. He made that so much harder, and that makes me a little upset for him in the sense that if he could do that move that he just did like that and almost stick it, he had so much more in the he had so much more in the tank, and if he would have just gotten the knee bar and gone up right hand and matched, I think he would have been able at least to do like 5 to 6 more moves there. But again, the men's route, extremely cryptic. So if you don't see certain things like that, it could just take you right off the wall. +18 for Stefan. He is tied with Adam Shahar. Well, actually, he's the leader because of countbacks. So they have the same score, but counting back to qualifiers puts Stefan Fellner as the leader for the men, and Mira Capicchione still holding that high point spot and
by a significant margin. Yeah,
that's what you want. That's what you really want. Really nice. Ooh, that makes me so nervous every time. Alina Albert.
It makes my stomach flip. It's so risky also going one hand. We saw one of the athletes earlier go 2 hands, and it's so much more secure, especially the hold is okay, but it's not great. And going two at one hand is always a little bit risky.
Yeah, but for those shorter athletes, they kind of have to use that left hand on the palm. I don't think they have another choice, but it is scary, that's for sure. Kai Leitner on the right. No, not new to a semifinal. He also was the 2017 lead champion, so familiar territory for him. Didn't have his best day climbing yesterday, but it was enough to get into the semifinal and make up for what he did yesterday. And I looking at this route, I think it's one
for sure. He's a very, I would say, slow but methodical lead climber, and I think this route could suit him very nicely if he can find positions to get comfortable.
Yeah, and Kai is 6'2" with a +6, so his reach is absolutely wild, one that anyone would envy.
Heel is not set there. Ooh, that was sketchy.
So that move right there, specifically being taller, he was able to comfortably keep that right foot down low and easily get to that crimp. Little foot slip there.
Really good save.
And that's one thing with these volumes. They can be kind of tricky to keep your feet on, especially in those tensiony body positions. Oh, he's kind of doing a calf hook as opposed to a heel hook there.
Without
just to keep his hips in more.
Yeah, he did that lower too.
It's so
innovative.
Nice. Well, it makes sense because he is so tall.
Right.
He wants to have his hips in as much as he can, and with the heel, it would be farther away from the wall, so throwing that calf in, he can comfortably pull in a bit better. We'll have to see if he can find that knee bar here. You know, with the knee bars, you always have to worry about that Shindex.
Right.
Looks like he's able to get into it. Really nice climbing.
Into, first place. Just by sticking that, I think.
So here you have to match that hold he's on. That's not great. And then you go into this tiny crimp that's actually blocked by another crimp, so limiting that crimp even more. Just to keep it interesting. Only can grab that left side. But looking really good here. And, you know, heel hooking and like toe hooking is something Kai's really good at. He's so tall and also so flexible.
He's so flexible. He works on it a lot. I think because he knows he's one of the taller athletes, flexibility is super, super important to him.
And this section, again, going to be a little bunched for him because he is so tall. Looks like he's going to be off there. But great climbing from him. New high point. And Alina Albert looked very smooth the whole way through. Don't think she was able to catch Mira Capacchione, but good climbing. Kai in this kind of bunched up position. You see his legs, because they're so long, he's also chicken winging there, those elbows pointing out. Smart move again, trying to go forward to that next hold, see if he'll get a plus there.
He'll be your new leader by a significant margin.
Yeah, he really will. So Alina Albert with 20 and no positive movement. And Kai, Kai has been in school and kind of trying to juggle school and climbing for a while, and he's finally getting back into that training area, like training regimen he was in prior to starting college, just chatting there with his mom, Connie Leitner. And yes, he will have that score of 23 plus, so that big
big lead
movement was really helpful for him.
Kai actually runs this amazing organization he founded called Climbing for Change.
Yes, he did. And he has a program here in Atlanta that is really amazing that people can go check out. And it offers grant opportunities, including competition climbing grant. That's a really big thing that he wanted to focus on. And consulting work with companies doing DEI projects, so really kind of changing the game. And it's so cool to see an athlete take that initiative to really try to make a difference. Not only is he an amazing athlete, but an amazing human and trying to make the world a better
Absolutely.
place.
And it's a legacy to leave that's more than just your climbing ability, which is really important.
100%. Lily Gertison on the left. And on the right, Gavin Albright just making their way through quite quickly, I might add.
Gavin is from Wisconsin.
I know.
Represent.
I was, you know, if you don't know, Alex is from
I
Hudson,
am. If you couldn't tell, I'm also from Wisconsin.
Not everybody knows that since she's lived all over Vegas, Colorado.
And Lily is from Vegas. So
2 people that have lived in states and cities.
Both
well, not
places
cities,
that
but
have my heart. Sorry, Vegas has it way more than Wisconsin does.
Oh, Lily just falling a little lower than she probably wanted to. Again, that section is really powerful right off the bat, and you can't really take a rest for a bit, and you're kind of getting into the flow of the route, and it's a little more uncomfortable than you want it to feel. Gavin looking really solid, though.
You were saying earlier that it's hard to keep your feet on the volumes, and I think where you can see some of those giblets screwed on, it's easy to use your toe to pull in, but like where his right toe is now on the volume, you don't have the opportunity to pull your hips in, and it's all friction dependent, and so it's really insecure.
And that was really good tension there from Gavin, because we saw Kai before be able to keep his foot low on the hold and do the move here without cutting, and Gavin just squeezed that volume really well, and to be able to do that without another hold on it was really impressive and very good for him to do, because then he was able to get to that crimp a lot easier without cutting and saving that energy. And Gavin did compete at Nationals this year, and he placed 18th in lead, so not new to a semifinal. This will be his second semifinal in his elite career. Lots of youth competitions.
Really nice angle here that shows the size of the wall and the angles of the wall. And so for the men, it's steeper at the start, and you kind of get into this head wall, and it's really full on from there on up.
Yeah, it is not letting off at all at any moment. He's in a really good position with that toe hook. He looks really comfortable. Like a lot of the men already, we've seen them be kind of frazzled here, kind of fighting, but he looks calm, cool, and collected. Right to the knee bar. And they didn't actually get it in there. He just decided to go the way Stefan was trying it, which again is going to exert more energy, but if you're strong enough to do it to it. But he needs to go with his left hand to that next hold.
It's hard here because the feet, there we go. The feet are sort of facing in the direction you don't want. So him putting his right foot higher, this is huge.
Smart. Decided to skip it, which you get, if you can control the next hold, you get points for that. The problem is if you skip and try to get that next hold and you fall, you'll get points for the last controlled hold. Really good effort. He will still probably get that same score as Kai Leitner, but he was in a good position to possibly get control. Exciting stuff happening in the semifinals already, and we'll be back soon with more climbing.
Since 1966, we have viewed walls not as obstacles, but as opportunities. From the big walls of Yosemite to the high peaks of the Himalaya, we were searching for a personal kind of freedom. In this pursuit, we found a community, strengthened by different stories, experiences, and perspectives. This community has shown us that the only way forward is together.
Got nothing better to do. Might as well go climbing, right?
Remember when no dream was too big? And you could fearlessly face the unknown. You still can. When you have a rock you can depend on for life, you'll be unstoppable. Like the millions of people who rely on Prudential for financial planning and investing. Who's your rock?
All we've seen, I think, for years, decades, is like men doing really awesome things, like getting these accolades. And all of a sudden, like women, it's like, we're doing the same thing and maybe doing it better.
It is a time to really dial in and focus on how much women have accomplished.
We have to make sure that we just take care of each other, uplift each other.
I want to see women's sport invested in at the same levels as men's sports.
Just very thankful for all of the pioneers that was before us, but very thankful for all the opportunities that's ahead of us.
I saw someone familiar.
That was
in
cool.
That commercial there. That was awesome.
That was the first time I've seen that. That was
Love
actually
it.
a really amazing weekend, talking to some really, really badass women.
That's awesome. And so Gavin Albright will be given that same score as Kai Leitner, but that will put him tied with Kai. And then for Koutbacks, Gavin will be ahead of Kai. Moments ago, Laurel Falk unable to do the start of women's semifinal route. Again, a little tricky. Definitely need to kind of run up in power into that start as Anthony Lessick is moving through the men's route. An athlete we've seen a lot in the past few years, came out of the youth competition scene and bursted onto the elite scene. Got 16th in lead at 2021 Nationals, so again, familiar with the semifinal round. He did that same kind of thing. He got too extended there and wasn't able. He realized and he was trying to fix it, but unfortunately wasn't able to make it happen there.
It's really hard to hold that tension when you're that far extended.
Just checking with the judge about his score there really quick. Anthony definitely falling lower than he would have wanted to. Another really capable and talented lead climber. I always want to accidentally say sport climber.
I know. That's a hard habit to break after 25 years of
just saying sport climbing.
Yeah.
17 plus is the score that he will be awarded, and he'll have to wait and see if that's enough. Remember, 8 men and 8 women will go to the final. Just a quick look at the scores right now. And Kai Leitner in the lead with the same score as Gavin, but ahead of him in the standings, and Mira Capacchione still hanging on to that first place spot for the women. Julia Duffy taking another look. So the athletes, once they turn around and are ready to go, have 40 seconds to get on the wall, and then their clock will start, and that's a 6-minute clock that they'll have to complete the climb or get as far as they can on it. Josh Greenbaum also taking another second. So the athletes come out earlier and have a preview where they get 5 minutes to look at the route, and they can discuss as much as they want. They can bring a notepad if they want to write things down, and
binoculars.
Also binoculars, yep. So the athletes will do that, and then they'll usually need a little bit of a refresher when they come back out.
So stressful watching that. Julia Duffy actually is someone who I personally think qualified lower than I was expecting her to. I think she's super talented and a really, really excellent executioner for lead, so I'm expecting her to, I think, do big things, but watching the start is really stressing me out, man.
And again, the setting here is supposed to be preparing these athletes for the World Cup circuit. All these athletes here fighting for a spot on the lead national team so that they can go and compete internationally at the IFSC events. So the way the setting is done here is supposed to emulate what they might see at a World Cup.
Exactly.
AJ mentioned earlier the fact that there aren't a lot of rests, and that's very typical of a lead competition at an IFSC event. So this is great practice for these athletes who want to go out and compete on that circuit.
There's our setting crew talking about how amazing of a job they've done so far this week.
I mean, so far it's playing out really well. I think the routes are really good.
A lot of good separation.
A lot of good separation. Not really surprised at where people are falling currently, as we're at the beginning of the list of competitors. So they're just kind of running through in their minds and to each other what's happening and what might happen later on as these climbers continue to do really well, making their way through. Josh Greenbaum doing that wrap section really easily.
And it's like you were saying earlier, Megan, it's discomfort.
Risky.
Yeah, discomfort, and being insecure. Like feeling insecure on the wall is something that I think you feel a lot when you're doing World Cups, and this is like a very nice job emulating that discomfort.
It really is. And that was an amazing save by Josh Greenbaum, choosing to go left hand and creating that swing, which is that barn door movement. So a lot of finger strength and core strength to hold that swing. Julia looking really good on the left, just breathing so important to lead climbing. Really the only way to continue climbing and doing so many moves at a time is to have your breathing really help you and take those deep breaths. One thing I really loved about the Olympics was I could hear Nathaniel on the wall because there was like a mic on the wall.
He seems excited about that.
He is one of the younger competitors. So only 17 years old. At Nationals, he placed 30th in lead, so he's already progressed a lot from November. So I think he should be happy. It's all about progression. Just getting into these elite competitions, that's what you want. So he's in a good spot. Julia nicely reading the beta there by bumping that right hand over and coming in with the left hand on that green hold to get yourself in a better position to move to that right flat hold and save that energy. She's looking really good here. Looks really calm and like she has a lot left in the tank. Josh will be getting an 18 plus for his efforts on the men's route. Julia with 2.5 minutes left on the clock. Choosing the right method here by going high. Isn't going to go to the undercling though, instead going to kind of cup that upper part of the volume, which was also smart. She does need to clip though. Luckily she's tall enough to keep that foot there so she can clip. Some of the other athletes might not have been able to do that. Smart to clip this next one now.
Double clip is always really convenient when you can get two.
Her elbow is kind of poking out a bit, so she's definitely getting a little pump. That cross into that black hole too is pretty strenuous, especially after all that other climbing, but she read this section really well. Now you're gonna have to go into this Gaston here.
Really impressive that she's still on, considering how pumped she looks right now.
Definitely our leader now with 30 points and should get a plus there. Really great climbing from Julia Duffy. She'll be really happy with that.
Yeah, this doesn't surprise me at all.
The qualifying round didn't go as well for her as she had hoped, so this is a great way to come into this next day of competition. And so we'll just have to see what happens with the rest of the athletes and see if it's enough for finals. Another look at Julia Duffy's climb. Really nice into that Gaston. Honestly, if she just would have stood up a little more and was able to hold that tension, she would have been able to get control of that next hold. But that is where the route really starts to ramp up. It's really cool to see a new part of the route. So 30 plus for Julia Duffy, making her the new leader. And the new leader by a few moves. So that's a nice spot to be in. It's nice when it's more than just a move or just movement.
It's a good little cushion. Security cushion.
Security cushion for sure. Up next, a familiar face, Miss Kylie Cullen, who was the winner in the bouldering competition earlier this week. Didn't have her best round of competition yesterday, but it was enough to get into the semifinals, so she'll be looking to improve upon that today. And Derek New, also getting ready to do the men's route. Just taking another look, making sure he knows exactly what he wants to do. You know, when you're reading the route, you have that plan A, plan B. You hope that what you saw from the ground works out, but you always have to have at least a plan B, because if you get up there and all of a sudden you're like, that doesn't feel right, it's really good to have something else as an option. And sometimes plan B is not even going to work out either, and you have to kind of find a position while you're on the wall.
A lot of that just comes with intuition too, and sort of being able to trust that intuition. So if you're gearing up for plan A or B and they're not working, sometimes your body can tell you, your body tells you that what you sequenced might be wrong, and to sort of play into the position a little bit too.
Exactly. Kylie already finding a really nice flow, getting that double clip here off that really good right hand pocket. It's a pocket jug. It's not really, I mean, it is a pocket, but it's a bucket. It's a nice bucket. Probably, again, the best hold on the route. I think having success in the bouldering round really puts her in a good headspace to come out here and continue to climb her best. She already knows she's on the bouldering team, and there's also that boulder and lead team that people are trying to get on as well, so she knows she has good chances coming into this round if she does well, and she doesn't necessarily have to win in order to get onto the team. And just having the cushion of being on the team is already
absolutely awesome.
So having that can put you at ease and kind of allow you to climb your best and have your best performance here. Really reading that section well, going straight out to that right giblet on the green volume and then coming into the better one on the left side of it, setting her up to move into these volumes nicely.
Derek is about to set up to see if we can get him in that knee bar position.
I like choosing the heel there for that clip. He'll probably have to switch to a toe for this next move.
Nice call, Megan. That was spot on. Isn't it nice being right?
It is really nice being right. I see why you love it.
Hey, welcome.
Kylie not even having to come into that undercling or cup the top. She just crossed right over to that black crimp, which just proves that she's feeling good right now.
She's actually moving, or she has moved way faster than Julia. I think Julia got to that point with a minute left, and Kylie just got up there with 3 left, so she was really mobbing through the rest of the route there.
She was, and Kylie does do well in sport climbing, but she is a boulderer first, so you will see a lot of the athletes that really kind of gravitate towards the bouldering discipline move a lot faster on the wall than the lead climbers who would definitely identify themselves more as lead climbers.
The boulders are sort of racing the clock, like racing the pump with the clock. So the faster you move, the more holds you touch, and you're just racing the pump. And a lot of the lead climbers look really comfortable on the wall, and the boulders are just like really motoring.
So Kylie with that same score as Julia Duffy, so she will be tied. Really good effort there by Derek New, getting to that same difficult or cruxy section of the route that we've seen a lot of the men have some trouble with, but really nice climbing for him. And it is not an easy route to read or to feel comfortable on. So really awesome. Awesome to see that.
He should be pretty happy with that performance, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a great performance. And at Nationals this past year, he was in 17th in lead. So again, not new to the semifinal round, but looking to improve upon what he did at Nationals. Morgan Taji walking out to the route. She had a great bouldering competition, made it into the semifinals in a really high spot. Semis was a little harder, but she's had trouble getting into the semifinals in the past, or hasn't gone as well, and she was much closer to making it into the final.
One of the younger athletes too, she's out of Salt Lake City and climbs on the momentum team. Her coach Palmer is actually in semifinals with her.
It would have been great if they were climbing at the same time.
She's also a really incredible rock climber. She's done some really hard boulders outside and some high ball boulders outside. She did Blue Steel this season, which is a very tall, scary V8. Just walked it. It was, yeah, her head game's really good, so this is exciting.
Just sizing up this start move on the women's route. Nicely executed. No problem at all. AJ just was holding her breath and now is shaking her head.
So stressful.
How happy are you that you're not doing that? Actually,
so
you could totally
I'd be fine.
You just jump to the top. I actually did get on the route yesterday.
I would jump right to the top.
I was really scared
to the top.
to run into the top. Just jump to the top. To the very top, yeah. Nicely getting through these first moves. I think it's really important to be confident at the beginning of this route. It's funny when you grab that green hold she just grabbed. That's the first hold where you're like, oh, I don't really like this, and I have to stand up on it. Okay.
I think a lot of that
pretty good
confidence. There's stress and nerves, obviously, going into doing the first move, and I think whenever you feel like that with the jitters, it kind of elevates your heart rate and can make you pump faster. And so I think the calmer they approach that sketchy run and jump that I'm absolutely not calm about right now is going to be more beneficial to them, so they can just keep it together. Because when you start climbing, you can relax a little bit, but if you're stressed before you even get on the wall, then
yeah, it's hard to come into it with that level of stress. Nathan Monty on the right, also looking pretty casual here as he sets up for that wrap section on the volume, where he's going to have to wrap his left hand on this next volume in order to rock those hips over and then figure out, well, he doesn't have to, but ooh, he threw the meat hook. Meat hook or a wrap, arguments on which is better. It's really whatever feels better to you.
But they are different.
They are different.
Meat hook is fingers facing up, using your palm like that, and then the wrap would be if you cock your wrist and your fingers are facing down. So right now, his left hand is in a meat hook.
Exactly.
Really technical. And so now his left hand is in the wrap. There's really technical terms here.
Thanks, Nathan, for showing us all of the different methods.
For demonstrating.
A nice going into that crimp, really nice method by kind of meat hooking. Or also the meat hook can be called cupping as well. You kind of hear different.
I don't like that.
You don't like the cup?
No, I think meat hook is like, you know?
Yeah, it's a little more aggressive, exciting, strong. Morgan looking pretty casual here as she starts to get into these small little giblets on those arrow-shaped volumes.
How is that hold that her right hand is on right now?
It's actually pretty good. It's not a bad hold, but the weird thing is now you have no feet. You see those shiny circles. Those are actually covering those bolt hangers to avoid athletes stepping on them. You can step on them, but they're slippery, so they don't help you. But you can get about a pad and a half of your finger back on that black hold.
Is it blocked by the wall at all?
A little bit. Farther to the right is blocked. But it's a pretty good rest, especially with the heel. And again, switching to a toe here to go up is a good idea. And if you read it right, bumping is your best bet because the cross is definitely harder. And then you do have to keep a heel, or not really, but it's just tricky to get set up for this without cutting, especially with the dual texture on that pinch. Really nicely done, though, from her. She made it with her foot on the texture part still. They're at like the same level of the climb right now.
I know, this looks really crazy.
Morgan just coming off and Nathan following behind, but really great climbing for both athletes. Both athletes 18 years old as well, so young. I feel like Morgan is in that position where she's like unsure of if that was good, if it was bad. Totally. She's like, I don't really know. And Palmer's still in ISO, so he doesn't know. Am I excited? Am I
the
not
thumbs
excited?
Up from the coach.
Yeah. That's what you're looking for. You're untying. You're looking for your coach for like a head nod or something.
Affirmation eyeballs, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely hard when your coach is still in ISO. Puts Morgan in fourth right now, though, so.
Nice. And I think we're about halfway through the pack here. I didn't count, but our list looks like it's
halfway through, so
cut the deck right here.
Not a bad position to be in. Nathan just taking a second to chat to Belair Ty Hardaway. Always happy to have the skilled belayers here, and a score of 20 plus for Nathan, which puts him in fourth as well.
Wow, that whole
everything
about that whole round was kind of crazy.
Up next, Adrian Akiko. You may have recognized her from the bouldering final, which she was also in at nationals as well. Just having a stellar year this year.
Absolutely, she's really had a breakout season, consistently making finals in the bouldering. Really cool to see her sort of bring all this together.
And just at 17 years old, so impressive. And Charlie Osborne on the right. Just moved out to Salt Lake City, 19 years old.
I'm going to need to move away.
Everybody's moving.
It's getting crowded.
You like to be a trendsetter, but then once everybody follows, you're like, maybe I'm out.
I am I coined the term speeders. I am the original trendsetter.
The original. He got 14th in lead at 2021 Nationals, so very, very often in semifinals and looking to make a final. Maybe here today. Adrian really moving through the women's route.
Would you say she's more of a boulder or more of a lead climber? What is her specialty? It's kind of hard to say.
I think she's one of those athletes that's really just good at both of them. It could really go either way. There's definitely some that trend more towards the bouldering and some that trend more towards lead, but she's kind of one of those combined athletes in my opinion, which is great as the boulder and lead combined is a thing that's happening because of Paris 2024. We have the new format being boulder and lead combined. Just a little misreading there.
That is surprising.
The camera angle, I can't really see what she was doing on the left side, but she was matching something. It looked like she was matching the pocket, so it put her in a weird position. Instead of crossing, she tried to like go right hand and match. So it's just a little bit of misreading that section of the route. Yeah. So you're supposed to cross to that pocket, so she instead decided to get matched into it, that like replay. So then that reach was way farther, and she had to come into it. So she just fully misread that.
Just
totally had
right
so much left in the tank, but. And again, it's because that cross feels uncomfortable. You're like, oh, I don't know if I can stand up into it. She's definitely really upset.
The angle of the
quick hug
pocket
from her coach, Claire. Charlie, on the other hand, looking really casual here. It's been cool to see a lot of the men do this next section without the knee bar. Just shows
surprising amount of men have not used it.
And that is a really, really hard section of the route to be getting out of that knee bar and just kind of deciding to power through that part.
Honestly, for me, knee bars are like often more work getting in and out of than they are beneficial for the resting. I have I kind of like personally have a hard time wrestling into them, and I end up getting more to like get it in, and then maybe you can rest a little bit, and then I have to wrestle it back out. But
the other thing is
pretty comfortable.
It fits everyone differently. If it fits you perfectly, it feels great. I mean, for Charlie, this looks like a great position, and I felt like Kai was in a good position here too. And it does set you up nicely to come into this crimp. Oh, but he's actually going to skip it, which I see why you would want to.
Right.
I think,
especially being able to rock over that right foot.
And
skip
it does
the block part.
It makes the move a little smaller too. Nice.
Really
First person we've seen stick that hold, so this is the new high point for the men. I actually really love this part of the route. It's so tensiony and so much work, and you have to kind of match here and then switch your hands around to go right hand. Decided to go with the left hand. Yeah, that is really
showing
cool.
that he's basically only halfway up.
That too.
New high point, only halfway.
Still proving to be very difficult, but Charlie Osborne taking the lead there.
Taking a lead.
The new leader in the lead.
Our new leader.
Leader. For some reason now I'm thinking
why is that the first time we've ever thought of that?
I don't know.
Litre.
Yeah, I know. 25 plus for Charlie Osborne. So there a look at your standings. Charlie Osborne now leading the pack, followed by Kai Leitner and Gavin Albright. And on the women's side, Kylie Cullen still holding that #1 spot, followed by Julia Duffy and Mira Capacchione. Will these high points hold? We shall see. Helen Stevens, another local to Kennesaw, Georgia. Very familiar with this gym.
Home court advantage here a little bit. I don't know that there's home court advantage if you've never been on the routes.
It depends on if you
really
actually. Well, I mean, you just know what the angles feel like.
Yeah.
Luke Meering on the right. Different age from the other day when he was in the bouldering final because his birthday was yesterday. So it's now 24 years old for Luke Meering, another local to Atlanta and Kennesaw. A lot of the athletes, if they live in Atlanta or Kennesaw or Suwannee or Alpharetta, what other parts of Georgia that are in that Atlanta area, they kind of travel around to all the gyms, and especially if you're going to get on a rope, this is one of the best ones to do it at.
Right, we do see a lot of Stone Summit athletes in semis and finals and in all the disciplines, and I think this is a really, really impressive and good training hub.
Oh yeah,
I mean this gym is incredible.
And these lead walls are so perfect for what you see in comps. They're the right height, they have the right angles, and the setting is really good.
Right, Marshall, who we'll have in the booth later, is the head setter, and he's obviously a good setter if he's also setting our team trial event. So to have one of the head setters for the event as a setter at your gym has to be extremely beneficial for training.
100%. It's a real game changer, to be honest.
Able to get on comp style routes and comp style boulders and practice those styles, I think, is immensely important.
Helen in a really good flow right now. She's moving quick. I mean, that's what you want to happen. You don't want to be sitting thinking about too much too often, because that whole time you are on the wall, you're exerting energy. You want to save as much energy as you can. And both of these routes only get harder the higher you get. So you got to save all that energy. And I think it's something that you can see from the ground. Like, I'm sure the athletes talked about that as they were previewing the routes with each other. So
you can see the clocks in the corner are slightly different. So men and women can start at different times and they'll have different clocks. But as soon as they're both down, then we pull the next athletes out.
Exactly. So we're having the men and women climb at the same time. So we will have them get out there, but they have that 40-second to use all 40 seconds or choose to use less than 40 seconds. So that makes those clocks a little different.
Luke going left hand to that crimp, which looked really strenuous.
I've seen a few people do that. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to keep his foot all the way on that right hold. Instead, he was kind of on the volume, so it definitely took a little more energy than he probably would have liked. Helen nicely into this.
Oh, she looks really good.
She really does. And she looked great yesterday. She had a really good day. And again, like you were saying, getting to have walls like this to train on only help your endurance. And you definitely need endurance for these routes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see if she reads this here to go to that upper crimp. Yep. Nice.
Really, really nice toe stab. Foot stab into the knee bar by Luke. That was smooth.
Really nice. Oh, just misses that silver. Nice performance by Luke Muring. Not sure if it'll be enough to get him into the final, but he has already been in a final this week. Big fall for Helen Stevens. I said at the top of the show there might be some big whips, especially on the women's side. Luckily, lots of great layers, giving lots of soft catches. 18 plus for Luke Muring, a score we've been seeing a lot. It's kind of the first
little bit of a bottleneck there for the men, but that's to be expected.
That first kind of difficult section where people might be falling. Just waiting to see what the judges are giving Helen Stevens for her score after that really great performance. I do feel like it's not too humid in here, which is nice. Last night it was kind of humid, and it made me a little worried about how those little like crimps and how the chalking would happen on the routes. But we're going to find out her score right when we come back, and there'll be more climbing to follow.
We fight the battles no one hears about.
We drop into the middle of firefights to rescue others.
And act as one-man air traffic control towers. We're the ones who go before all others. Join the fight.
Welcome back. We are currently in a brush break. Want to make sure we keep the holds nice and fresh for the athletes. So the route setters right there, it's a little close-up of Mike Bikino taking a second to brush off those volumes. As you can see, they're getting very, very, very chalky. And again, those volumes are very slippery at times, so it's important to make sure you brush off the holds for the athletes as we're getting more and more competitors out in the round. Really great climbing so far from the men and the women. Both routes proving to be very difficult, just as expected. On the left side, we have Luke also brushing the women's route, and not surprised that I haven't seen a top yet. Historically, the semifinal round is the most difficult round, always because you're cutting from so many athletes to such a small number. It's really important that we challenge these athletes enough to make sure that you're getting the best athletes into that final round, into the final show, which is always the most exciting as an athlete. That's when you come to a competition, that's exactly where you want to be. I was talking to some of the competitors the other day, and we were just talking about how qualifiers is often the most stressful round, just because to get into the final is what you want, but you have to get out of qualifiers and get into semis first, and if your dream ends in qualifiers, it's pretty crushing. So it's always hard to make it through that first round and not get too stressed about it. But really thankful to have the route setters out here working really hard. They were here till the late night hours last night, just making sure these routes were perfect and the right difficulty for the athletes. And as it seems so far, I think that they were spot on. I'm really hoping to see some men and women get to the top of these routes and try to top them out. Again, all the athletes here working for spots on the team, on the national team, to be able to compete in the World Cup circuit this year. The first World Cup happening in Meiringen, Switzerland soon, and so some of the athletes that are already pre-selected, they will not be there, but really exciting. We have those Salt Lake City back-to-back World Cups happening May 20 to 22nd. The first Bouldering World Cup, followed by the Paraclimbing World Cup, May 24th to 25th, and then May 27th to 29th, a Bouldering World Cup and a Speed World Cup. Last year at the Speed World Cup, world records were broken twice in one day. Super exciting. And we had a really cool venue last year, but this year it might be even cooler because we're in a nice grassy area in the middle of Salt Lake City. So come on out if you're in the Salt Lake City area. Make sure you get tickets. They'll be going up on the USA Climbing website soon, so make sure you check back. And if you don't live in Salt Lake, take a flight out. It'll be really, really fun. Climbing competitions are back, and who doesn't want to see them in person? I want to be there. I'm going to be there. I'll be commentating. Really excited. Some more brushing still happening. So when the route setters go through this brushing break, they actually go and they brush through every single hold. You saw some of the route setters on a ladder at the bottom of the route, and then you have two other setters come in from the top so that they can make that transition as fastly as possible, or as quick as possible. So Helen Spoor came in, and at 29, she is sitting in third place. So those top three women, Kylie Cullen, Julia Duffy, Helen Stevens. And on the right, Charlie Osborne taking the lead, followed by Kai Leitner and Gavin Albright. Really nice separation here. Lots of good climbing, lots of good fight from the athletes. I'm just so excited to see if anyone can top these routes. They are so difficult, as you have seen so far. Very technical, powerful, need a lot of endurance. Kind of lead climbing at its finest. And we are so thankful for all of our hold suppliers. Take a look at them. Without them, we wouldn't be able to have this competition. EP, Expression, Flat Hold, Rock City, Squadra, Technic, Blue Pill, Cheetah, Blocks, and Grip. Is it Grip or A Grip? Unsure, but I think it's A Grip. I'm gonna go with that one. Those hold companies, those black holds you see right there, those are actually Flat Holds. A company that came about a while ago, but you see them in almost all World Cups. Very popular brand to be in the World Cups and in a lot of these competitions. Nice look at some volumes. Actually, on that right side, there is a little black screw-on hold that, because it's the same color as the volume, you can't really see, so a lot of the athletes probably didn't see it from the ground, but when they grab it, it's a nice surprise. That little black one on the right side, the pink one's really obvious, but the black one, because it's the same color, it's not super obvious. So it's something nice when you're on the wall and you grab something, you're like, oh, there's something more here. It's a very nice surprise. I noticed that a lot on the women's route, actually. A lot of those upper flat holds, there are little giblets screwed on, and you don't really know that they're there necessarily, so it's a nice surprise when you're tired and you're reaching for something, and then you're like, oh, yes, there's something else. Makes the hold a lot better rather than just grabbing a sloper. So really, really nice close-up of some of those giblets. Got Brad Weaver at the very top of the wall just checking to make sure what's happening. I think he might stay up there and give people a high five as they get up there. If you get a top, you also get a high five from Brad Weaver. That's an honor, that's for sure. Brad, a former competitor himself, really good at the bouldering and lead disciplines, often on U.S. teams competing internationally. Also one of those route setters who sets at some of those World Cup competitions. He was in Salt Lake last year. Just checking out the view. We got a nice crowd here, so you can look down from above. Nice little close-up of some more of those volume holds that the women will have on their route. Nice look at the crowd. You see some of the athletes. Caden Reedy right there in the blue sweatshirt next to Sophia Curcio. And behind her, Taya Wolf. And actually, we have a guest coming into the booth here. Super exciting. We are going to be joined by one of the route setters, Marshall Henderson. Welcome to the booth. Our home away from home.
Nice.
I have a cot in the back. How do you think the round's going so far?
I think we're pretty psyched with how everything's playing out so far. We're psyched to see the second half unfold. Hopefully get some people up higher in the route.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I was here with you guys last night for a bit, and one thing we really noticed was how much power you would need, how much endurance you would need, how much finger strength, body tension. It's kind of everything.
Yeah, it's heinous for sure. It's hard down there.
How do you feel about a lot of the men bypassing that knee bar and just going straight out left hand to that sloper? I feel like it's quite a risky decision.
Yeah, it's super hard. I mean, the knee bar, definitely, you're rewarded if you find it. And the next thing that makes that really hard is you have to match that hold on top of the volume, and doing that without the knee bar is very, very impressive for sure.
Yeah, I'm impressed by the success rate it's actually had.
Yeah, it's surprising. I wouldn't be doing that for sure.
Same. So when you guys are kind of planning out these routes, obviously you have an idea, but not only do you have to hope that the moves work, but you also have to make sure the falls are safe. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, so clipping positions and kind of general pump is all taken into account when we're assessing things. And basically, you know, there are situations like with the Blue X, for example, up high on the route, where we find spots that we are uncomfortable with, and we take measures to make sure that they can be clipped safely or that we don't put anyone at risk. Yeah, I mean, it's all part of the game. There are definitely hard clips. There's definitely a part of training that is devoted towards being efficient with your movement, finding good clipping positions, or just being strong enough to isolate a hold so that you can hang on that extra half second to pull some rope and put your hand in your chalk bag. And that's just being an experienced sport climber, you know?
Exactly. When you were looking at the routes, was there anything that you thought was going to be a bottleneck, and is it kind of turning out that way, or do you feel like you're happy with the separation so far?
Yeah, so, it's interesting. Those are conversations we obviously have during the forwarding process, and one of the things we talked about a lot with the men's route specifically is kind of getting them stressed right out of the gate and making sure that they would be able to keep themselves poised and recover and kind of execute cryptic sequences really well, and that risk, it's part of our job to push the sport forward and prepare our athletes for the world stage and make sure that they can keep controlled and keep their heart rate down when they're really being stressed, but at the detriment of maybe the results not being so good. So finding that balance can be really hard sometimes, but ultimately we know that this event is preparing people for the world stage, and that's something that they're going to get. So it would be a disservice to them if we didn't give them an opportunity to get some practice in before they travel,
Yeah, 100%. And I think you've given them a really great opportunity here. And we have climbers back on the wall. On the left, we have Katie Bone, and on the right, Palmer Larson. Katie Bone kind of sized up that jump at the beginning for the women and executed very well. She did not take the running approach, more of just the step into approach. And I actually noticed she kind of flipped her left hand again as she caught the green hold to kind of create that opposition that was really well executed. Kind of a tricky start for the women. A little Anya.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Sorry, go ahead.
What was going through your mind when you were setting that, and did you expect a few of the girls to pop off the start?
Yeah, so, I think I more or less alluded to that when we were talking about the bottom of the men's route,
Totally.
Our job is to prepare these athletes for the world stage, and we know that the ones who make it out of here tonight are going to get stuff like that at the bottom of routes and World Cups, and they got to be prepared for it. And again, that balance is a hard thing to find, but ultimately we know we'd be doing the athletes a disservice if we didn't make them go through that mental game when their feet are on the pads and they're running towards the wall and they're just like committed from the get-go.
Sure. Yeah, Megan and I talked about this a little bit watching a few of the women, how you're stressed before you even pull on, and that can elevate your heart rate. How can you how do you handle that?
Yeah, you come out during the preview, you look at the route and you're like, oh, that's what's up, and we're going to go back into ISO and we're going to think about it for half an hour before we get on the wall.
Think about that and only that. Probably not think about the rest of the route, just about the fact that that first move is terrifying. It actually reminds me of a World Cup event in Arco in 2017 where there was like a dyno a few moves in for the men, and Alex Megos actually fell off of it.
Yeah.
So it happens to everyone. People get stressed, people underestimate those movements, and even to the best in the world.
Yeah, and the World Cup route setters, they're only pushing that even further. That was several years ago, and the stuff you're seeing now it's real, and they need to do that here tonight.
100%. Palmer Larson on the right, looking really calm in this section. He is 26 years old, one of the older competitors. I know, can't believe that is one of the older competitors in the field.
Oldest? He might be the
There are
oldest.
a couple in lead he might be the oldest, but we've had a couple 26-year-olds throughout this competition this week.
It's crazy to think that 26 is the oldest.
The minute we stopped competing, we stopped being the oldest people out here.
Right.
Sorry, everybody.
I was the oldest girl at nationals for sure.
Yeah.
The ripe age of 32.
I think I stopped when I was
quite
30.
a few years.
Katie Bone kind of fighting through this section here, trying to get to that more dynamic move. We'll see if she does the bump here. We've seen a lot of the women, when you agree the bump, not able to make it happen there, but good fight from her. That section's really tricky, and if you read that bump, you are so much better off, because that cross is a lot more difficult.
Yeah, that's another one of those moves, testing, making sure that you can keep controlled, keep confident, do the move, keep your heart rate down, recover. It's one of those moves. It's hard, but you're going to get it.
Nice replay here from Katie Bone. She kind of went out to the hold, felt uncomfortable, had to come back, and then she tried to come in, but instead of bumping, she actually tried to match on that left side, and there wasn't really enough room for her hand to get on that good crimp, so she's going to get that score of 20 plus as Palmer Larson just loses it, kind of off balance there for a second.
He does have a lot of fight. He tries harder than I think any of the other competitors
100%, and it's so cool to see it pay off in these last few years specifically, like really making a jump to being consistently in semis and just kind of knocking at the door of finals. He competed in the Salt Lake World Cup last year as well, and it was pretty cool because he is a coach at Momentum in Salt Lake City, so he had a pretty big crowd when he was on the wall. Everyone screaming for him. So good effort there by Palmer Larson. He's like, oh man, I could have done something different there. That is a hard thing when you fall off the wall. The first thing you think about, well, you have to stand there and untie your knot, so there's nothing else to do besides
dwell. You're just sitting there dwelling because you're literally stuck. It's like ball and chain.
Yeah, exactly. You just can't get out
even
of
run
there.
away from it. You have to stand
I
there.
think that's why Charlie Barron decided to sit down when he was struggling to untie his knot, because he was like, I don't want to look at the root anymore. I'm gonna turn away from it. Again, I think there should be someone there to help people untie their knots, honestly. Because you're so pumped. You're absolutely bricked.
Totally.
At the end. Flamed.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. I like that one. Whoa, CC Cup coming out in style today.
Looking good.
I'm loving that. It's like a disco ball.
CC's actually been sewing her own clothes. I know we talked about this a little bit in the bouldering. So I'm not sure about the shirt, but I absolutely know she made those shorts because I watched her do it.
She's always been rocking something crazy.
Yeah.
So I really love how she embraces multiple patterns. I feel like it's really cool. And she's, I mean, she's not, I guess she was probably born in the 90s-ish. Maybe the late.
I don't know if anyone here was born in the 90s.
Not even, no, the late 90s, late 90s, maybe early 2000s. Ross Fulkerson on the right, just giving another look at the men's route. He definitely qualified a little lower than I thought he would. But that happens, and I mean, if it's going to happen, you want it to happen in the qualification rounds. So there are 26 spots going into semis. I was actually talking to Maya Madeira yesterday, and she was like, oh, I timed out on one route, and then I like slipped on another, and I was like, yeah, but you'd rather have it happen in qualies, right? And she's like, exactly. Both athletes off to a pretty smooth start.
Excited to watch Ross in this.
Yeah, this is a route that, I mean, we were talking about this yesterday, and like a route that I could see him doing very well on, along with a few other of the competitors, but definitely one to watch on this if he can just read it properly. I think that that's part of the battle, especially in something so cryptic like this.
Totally.
Especially starting right here, honestly. If you get through this little wrap section quickly and confidently, I think it sets you up nicely to continue that flow. I think a lot of the men who've been getting hung up there kind of struggle on those next cruxy sections as well.
Totally. Yeah, there's definitely a way to execute that sequence that sets you up better later in the route.
CC having a nice flow on the left as well, taking those moments to straighten her arm and shake out. When you are resting, you really want your arm as straight as possible, kind of dig into those heels. Oh my gosh, if he holds this.
That is strong.
That would have been absolutely devastating.
As it is, that's going to take a lot of energy. Gosh. And see,
this is exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, go ahead. No, you
talk. Please talk.
I mean, that whole section, fighting like that, and then sticking back to the wall, and look how he's just totally chilling out, chalking up, slowing down his breathing. This is amazing. This is what we want to see.
And we do have a soundbite from Ross, another slip on the pressure that he feels. So let's take a look at that.
The pressure aspect of competing is definitely an interesting one. I think it helps a lot of the time just to have your own routine and be confident in what you're doing. And I really try to not let any of the things out of my control kind of affect my performance. So even just now, I just went for a walk like under there's like a nice little walking path right there, and it's good just to be in the sun and be excited to compete. And like ultimately I love competing like for myself, and it's just me and the wall. So yeah, I think it's about just being like present and focused and enjoying it for why you're doing it. Yeah.
Really glad he was able to save both of those slips, and excited to see what else he can do on the route. We're getting into the meat of our top 10 here, so I think we're going to see some really cool things, and I'm really glad that Ross was able to save that slip.
That drop knee beta looks really good. That's not something that we really talked about that much during the forwarding process, but if you can do it, it looks really good.
It seems to be the most successful way, as we've seen a lot of the men who get into this position doing that drop knee beta. Also, Ross is one of those athletes we were talking about who like really commits to whatever his body feels is right. He never tries to do what he thinks he's supposed to do.
No doubt.
That move down low where he had that crazy barn door and controlled it, that was him fully committing. And now he's got the high point here. Look at that nice inside flag toe hook.
Come on, Ross.
As Sienna Kopp also on the left, really looking good here. I mean, her
come on, Ross, take us to the top. Come on.
Now he has to make sure he clips from this hold. He cannot pass that hold without clipping. Otherwise, he will be called off the wall.
He has to clip the higher draw, maybe?
No, the one he just clipped.
Come on, Ross. Wow.
Really great effort from Ross Fulkerson. As expected, performing extremely well on the men's route. And honestly, not a perfect, clean attempt for him. Like, he had a lot of mishaps that he had to control. Sienna Kopp as well, looking amazing on the women's route. Really great climbing, especially after a okay round for her. She did have a top yesterday, but her first route, she definitely fell earlier than she wanted to. So nice to see both of them doing really well. Sienna sitting in 4th place now with her score of 28+. Ross just checking with the judge. He will have that high point, so he will be the new leader.
Leader. Oh yeah, we're bringing it today.
33+ points for Ross Fulkerson, the new leader of the men's semifinal round. And we, like Alex said, are getting into the meat of the competition.
Really awesome moment there.
So Ross Fulkerson taking the lead, followed by Charlie Osborne and Kai Leitner, still sitting in those number 3 spots. Also Gavin Albright tied with Kai Leitner. And on the women's side, Kylie Cullen, Julia Duffy, Helen Stevens in top 3. And remember, it's the top 8 that will be moving on into the final. Maya Madare.
Speaking of Maya.
Yeah, we were just referencing her, huh?
Killed it in bouldering.
And killed it in the qualifier yesterday. I mean, actually got a top, but unfortunately ran out of time. So her standing doesn't really reflect really how well she climbed yesterday. And then Quinn O'Francia on the right. I'm really excited to watch both these athletes. They absolutely crushed in semifinals. And Quinn has been in every discipline this week, so he is really getting a good workout and showing no signs of slowing down. Maya confidently onto the women's route, and one of the women who has a lot of power, so one I was thinking who would do really well on this route as long as she makes good decisions and conserves her energy, but honestly been prepping for routes a lot more recently, so endurance is higher in her skill set than it was, say, like a few years ago. And she was on the lead national team last year, so some World Cup experience under her belt as well. Quinn really getting off to a pretty quick start here. Setting up for that first kind of awkward section where you have to make some decisions on how exactly you want to approach those volumes.
Yeah, you really don't want to commit to this foot move right here. This foot move is really tricky.
The rock over.
Yeah, well, just building the foot up that high here on some very slopey holds and getting your hips that far away from the wall is not what you want to be doing at the second hold.
You're like, wait a minute. You just started.
Where are the jugs? Where are the jugs?
If you watched the bouldering competition the other day, Maya Madare had a crazy moment on women's number 2. I don't think I've ever been so excited on a broadcast. You can see it in this lower
3 seconds
corner.
left right here.
3 seconds as she just fires to the top of women's number 2, and that put her on the podium. She ended up in 2nd place. She's been trying to make a bouldering team for years, and it happened in the best way possible. It was such an exciting round.
Absolutely.
Really propels her to do well here today.
One of the, I think, most exciting buzzer beaters I've ever seen in competition climbing.
It was wild. I mean, in the delicate nature of that move and to do it so quickly, it's
just pistol squat on the slab.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And that,
you never want to do that fast.
Also, it's crazy because the ending of that boulder is actually really uncomfortable and really unstable. So the fact that she was just like so committed to it was incredible. Quinn O'Francia off a bit earlier than he would have wanted to, just had a little slip up there, but Maya looking really strong here. I was noticing too on Cece's attempt, she did a high heel here on the volume, which looked really nice. I mean, she does have really long legs. She's 5'9", I believe, with very long legs, and she was able to get the heel up, but it kind of set her up nicer to go into this move right here.
Raises your hips up to do that move.
So it's a little less powerful, which is very smart reading on her part.
Yeah, it's cool. You know, we have a general idea of option A or option B, but when competitors find something different to do, it makes the show really exciting.
It really does, and Maya reading that section really well, going with that bump method on that green hold to kind of set her up nicely.
These clips are hard right here. Very pumpy.
So this heel here, I don't know if she sees the foot out right, because that heel is not
Very
good.
insecure,
It's
yeah.
very insecure. I kept trying to put my heel there too, and I was like, wait, this doesn't feel good. But she just didn't even use the hold out right.
No, hip flexor strength it takes to engage that heel and make it work
Nice.
while clipping is really impressive.
She moved really well through that section.
Yeah, she also grabbed that lower part and just cut the top of the
Ooh, come on.
Chicken wing.
Come on, Maya.
The dreaded
Flame.
chicken wing happening.
just needs to kind of switch her feet. She needs to get that
Come
high
on, Maya.
left foot in order to, I don't think she was set up well enough to get into that high left foot and go into that Gaston, but still high up there on the route, so she should have a pretty good score. We'll just have to see what happens after the other women climb. That is one of the higher
Attempts.
points on the route. She should be in the top 5 at least. Looks like she's in 3rd right now with the 29 plus. So in a nice spot.
We'll see if she can hang on to that.
Yeah, we still have,
I think there's 7-ish.
10 more women to go.
Oh wow, I wasn't even close.
On that right side of the screen, Ross Fulkerson is the leader with 33 plus. Really great performance and a huge lead. That'll make him feel really comfortable.
Stone Summit's Luke Mirren hanging in there.
Yeah, birthday boy from yesterday. Let's take a look at Ross's amazing save here. So he kind of sets up and decides to go with his right hand, but his foot slips because he's on that volume and he has to. He fully sunk down into the shoulder and had to like kind of one arm pull back up.
10 times out of 10, I dropped that move for sure.
The problem is too is like it's
On
just the
his
volume
fingers.
and then it's the bolt hanger cover that's all slippery. So there was nothing with his right foot that he could get himself back on.
No, and that helicopter is so hard to hold on that half pad edge
my
like that. That
gosh,
was
yeah.
like, that's going to be the Yeti move of the day.
It better be
Even
the
though it was an
Yeti move of the
accident.
day. And to recover after being that low on the wall and having that happen and then make it to make the high point happen for him.
Makes you wonder how
Amazing.
much more he had to give.
Yeah, he probably could have topped the route. Isaac left on the right, and it's left, not left, so.
See what you did there.
It's really nice to watch him climb. He's got a true passion, and he really lets out those screams from time to time, which is reminiscent of, back in the day in climbing.
Old PCA days.
Yeah, old PCA days. Chris Sharma, Stephen Jeffries, Adam Stack, John Stack, Charles Rassassin. All of them just screaming away. So we were there for that. We were like 12, but
12
we were
and
there.
13 doing adult comps.
You know,
we had
no big deal.
business doing.
Except we were on podium.
Except we were winning. Yeah, that's fine.
Emily Hurdick on the left, quickly making her way in. I saw Stefan Fellner did that as well.
Spicy.
Spicy, but if you commit, it works out. As long as it's always scary though, because you don't want to heel hook on a finger.
Right.
You lose a pinky that way. Sure.
Many a pinky have been lost to the hand heel match. It's okay. We have some medics in the house. All good. Zach DiCristino's here to take care of everybody.
This move's very precarious.
It's interesting too to watch people do it so many different ways. I love that.
Yeah, we love those moments. This next move during forwarding to this black cheetah thing outright, really, really precarious move. Cruised it. Nice.
Yeah, just a lot of body tension there that you have to keep in order to not kind of barn door off the wall.
Had to rebate back down to that pink crimp like 3 times before I stuck that move.
It's a great term, rebate. Just go back down.
Yeah.
Recycle.
Oh, he looks really comfortable here.
He really does. And Emily Hurdick on the left also looking quite comfortable. I'll be interested to see if she does the high heels. She's pretty linky as well, but gonna take that low one. She climbed really well in the qualifier yesterday. She's been improving a lot over the last few years. It's been really awesome to see her. Another one of those ABC kids out of Boulder, Colorado. No surprise there.
Oh, nice heel hook beta.
Yeah.
Super good.
This is the first time we've seen that. I think we saw a couple athletes try to do it, but not be able to quite engage it.
Yeah, they ended up having to just like bring that high foot up, but really nice from him there. So she's going to go with that cross method, which I think is a little more powerful. As you see, she had to kind of match again to make that work for her, but nicely executed.
She's looking good.
Get a little reprieve here when you can get your feet up and kind of sit on your foot for a second. These two left and right.
Nice fight.
These are pretty good.
Come on. Matching this thing is
hard. Good effort from Isaac left. And that's one of those higher points on the wall so far, so he should be in a good spot. Emily trying to figure out exactly which hold she wants to grab first. This part's kind of tricky.
Sponsored by Subway.
Nicely through. She should try to clip again here if she can. But if not, she can clip off that left hand as well. Now that she's committed to the high foot, it's better to clip later. Also better to go for point. Oof, not the best.
Like crash landing.
Yeah.
The players have been killing it today.
They are,
Yeah,
they are.
absolutely.
She just fell in a weird way, so she couldn't get her feet back in front of her, so kind of slamming into the wall with her side is only because she was in a different orientation as she fell. But yeah, the belayers I have so much respect for.
Absolutely.
Especially comp belaying is terrifying, because the idea is to give a soft catch to the athletes. Quick replay of Emily Hurtick here. You see she's kind of sideways to the wall, so she goes to get her foot up to stabilize her against the wall, but she kind of gets it above her on accident and then just goes right into her side. But oh, see, there we go.
Nice.
Laura helping her out. That's what I like to see. So when you take those big whips, it really cinches that knot down, and it makes it really difficult. And the climbers are pumped when they get off the wall. And Laura is Quinn Mason's mom. Both Dawn and Laura always volunteer to belay, to judge. They're always out here. It's great to have so many of the families out and volunteering. Great climbing community. And, you know, you don't have to be a parent of an athlete to volunteer. If you are a member at a gym and they're hosting a competition, please volunteer. We always need more of them.
Also important to note that this morning at check-in, Laura was counting how many women were to go, so she ended up not belaying Quinn.
Yes.
Which is a conflict of interest with judging and belaying. So all of our parent volunteers make sure that they're not judging or belaying any of their own kids. So she was standing at check-in, go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, which one? Like, do I get the odds or the evens? Making sure she's not belaying Quinn.
And that's Dawn on the right, Quinn's dad. And Chloe Koskoy starting her attempt of the women's semifinal route, another athlete that could do really well
Yeah,
on
I'm excited
this
to watch
route.
her.
Yeah,
She could take us to the top for sure.
She could definitely take it to the top. Yesterday, she did really well on the more low-angle route. She kind of pumped out a bit on the more overhanging route, but I think she also, sometimes when you get on your first route, there's a lot of nerves and you kind of overgrip, so especially if your first route is the pumpy one, you can do that. Ray Hansen on the right, making his way up. He looked really good as well in the semifinal. In the qualifier yesterday. How many days are we on at this point? I don't even know. It's all a blur. I don't know.
Left and came back.
Honestly, yeah, AJ left. She
flew
had
halfway across the country and came
film
back.
premiere, and now she's back to help us out here.
The whole week is a blur.
That's another crazy thing to talk about too. Is a lot of these athletes competed in 3 rounds of bouldering already. I remember Luke, after his qualification run, Luke Meering was in finals for bouldering, and he was just like, "Oh, I'm so tired."
That, and we're just sitting here talking about it, and we're tired. I can't even imagine how tired they are.
Yeah, it's a lot of fitness that needs to be had in order to be successful in these competitions. Chloe working her way nicely through the women's route, trying to keep herself from cutting feet too much. All 4 points on. She's really good at finding like knee scums and knee bars. We saw her do,
no
and she
hands.
she looks so comfortable.
Finals too.
She is for bouldering. She's very
half
comfortable.
French.
Yeah, this is true.
So technique runs in her veins.
That's true. The French are always technicians when it comes to climbing. So it's a really good point. Nice.
She was born. She was born with it.
Yeah, you can't teach that. It's just in your blood.
Yeah, exactly.
Very casually going to that. That didn't even look like a move for him, which is a good sign.
Yeah.
This low on the route, and having seen a lot of athletes kind of have trouble with that section.
Resting on that crimp seems
maybe not ideal. I wonder if he doesn't realize that he can probably rest on that toe hook, but I mean, everyone's different. If you have a lot of endurance, you'll find a lot of the athletes take more time to rest in general. I know for myself, but probably for you too, AJ, as we're more so boulderers, like I only rest at the real rest. I don't find
I need jugs.
Other rests. They don't exist really.
I love jugs.
I need a quick draw to hang on.
Yeah, totally.
There he goes, finding that toe hook. Kind of so interesting to see him struggling with that section a bit more than some of the other athletes. Everybody's obviously different, so it's always cool to see which parts are challenging for which athletes.
Slinking that toe hook out of there is hard.
That was a nice slink.
That the momentum and how it opens you up like that is really really powerful, being able to hold that swing and then reel it back in and keep moving.
Yeah.
Chloe looking really good here. Just needs to make sure she reads this section nicely so she can set up to get into those green volumes. The green volumes, the first one's pretty good. The second one's still pretty good, but if you can get to that left volume or the black volume after, she'll be able to have a giblet on there to hold on to.
A lot of hesitation happening.
Oh my gosh, wow. He really risky climbing in that section for Ray. Also a lot of show of strength. So Chloe now taking the lead here with control of that right hand. And clipping there is honestly in that stance she's in with her feet with that heel hook and that left foot on the volume makes it pretty casual if you're not set up in that same position.
Oh, come on. Nice.
Chloe's
going to take us to the top of
I
this.
think she might.
Come on, Chloe.
She's
fighting.
She does grab. She's going to go straight to the far crimp. Looks like she's going for points at this part.
Come on, Chloe, take us there. Come on.
In this head wall, being able to stand on your feet.
Nice.
Good effort. Really smart climbing there from Chloe because she could have tried to make that clip, but she was already getting pumped. So getting those 3 extra moves in there, even though she didn't control that last hold, she'll still get the movement to it.
She's psyched.
Very happy with that performance. I mean, you never want to say anything too early, but I would be surprised if that doesn't get her into the final.
Yeah.
It's nice to see a woman get to that part of the route, too. This next move, a few different ways to do it, and she went with the right hand, which probably with how tired she was a better idea. You can also go left hand, but then it forces you into more of a dynamic movement, which after all of that climbing will be very, very difficult. So 34 plus for Chloe Koskoy, your new leader in the women's semifinal round, looking to hold on to that #1 spot so she can make it into the final with just
boys.
8 more women to climb. Chloe's gonna get to have a snack and some water.
And a
baguette.
Some brie.
A
glass of wine, maybe.
Baguette and some brie. Yeah, glass of wine.
She's not 21 yet, so no wine for her.
Not right. Grape juice.
Grape juice.
Sparkling grape juice.
Little communion. It's all.
Brian Squire on the right and Nakaya Sanders on the left, getting ready to get their semifinal rounds going. Both athletes also did really well in the qualifiers yesterday. See if they can kind of replicate their performances here. Nakaya right onto the wall there. See, it's all about confidence.
Yeah.
It's all about confidence.
Yeah. She is one of the shorter athletes too, so
and she
was one I was worried about.
She's one who likes to jump that much. She's very static in her climbing, so flexible. One of the most flexible athletes I've seen.
Really,
I think about Megan Mascarenas a lot when I watch Nakaya climb. Very similar understanding of movement and
high movement IQ for sure.
Exactly, and a lot of flexibility and just using that to your advantage.
Her mom also volunteers. She was running check-in.
Yeah, we were chilling with her at check-in this morning.
These events would literally not be possible without volunteers.
No, yes, not at all. I don't even, the thought of that makes me scared of not having volunteers. It would be a nightmare.
It's cool to see a lot of the athletes volunteering too after they're done with their rounds.
Yeah, that is really nice, Marshall. That is a really good thing to bring up. We saw Cece do that the other day. She left our booth, and the next thing you know, she was back on our
running
screen.
Running
ISO. So
they definitely are plugged in. You know, it makes things fluid and nice.
It's also a distraction from maybe how you did. You want to be involved and you want to be here and be supporting and not just sitting sulking in the corner if you don't have a great day or something. So getting involved is a nice distraction. That's why I'm here. I'm not sulking in the corner.
Thanks, AJ. We're really happy to have you here. I'm glad you could fit us in.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Nakaya looking really calm here. She's got a lot left in the tank. Actually, when I was talking to her mom earlier, she was saying that Nakaya doesn't get on a rope a lot. She doesn't have a lot of belay partners. So she was kind of surprised with her performance yesterday because she hasn't actually been on a rope a lot. And, you don't necessarily need to be on a rope to train endurance, but it definitely helps in terms of, finding clipping stances and finding that flow when you are on a rope. So can you imagine if she trained on ropes more?
Right.
I mean,
yeah. It's okay, she's chilling.
There he goes. Nicely into that more comfortable stance to set up for that heel. He's gonna, not even take a toe here.
It's another example of a good test for a World Cup route. Like this rest, this shake here, if you're just calm and your mind's not running a million miles an hour, you can really get a lot back.
Yeah.
But you're engaged and stressed the whole time.
I thought he was gonna have to flip to that toe. Really nice decision making there. That would have been interesting to go off the heel, I feel like, especially because he's not super tall. Would have really shortened him there.
Taking a look back at his clock.
Getting a little pumped there. Yeah. But
great
really great fight.
That'll put Chloe guaranteed into finals.
Sick.
Yeah. She'll be very happy with that.
The women's
2
final
finals in the week.
Too.
Yeah. Very excited to see that. We'll be coming to you later for a rundown about it. Have to see if that's good enough for Nakaya. Definitely great climbing from her and puts her in a good spot. Tied for 4th right now, so we'll have to see. Yeah. There's a 3-way tie for 4th currently, so.
Might be a long final.
Might be. Brian's still looking good here. I love moves like this where you have to start moving, clip, and continue the movement. You can't come back down to the previous hold. Nice and fluid. Definitely more difficult. Wow. So much conviction there. Nicely done.
Pressing on the left hand too. That's the first time we've seen that to help get him up into that undercling further. Flipping the left hand and
He
turning
looks
it into
really
a little bit of a
comfortable in that drop knee too. Like that box looks like it fits him nicely.
This is a tricky spot to be in right here.
Yeah, rut row.
Oh, nice.
Is there a foot? Is there a foot
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really good. Really nice try hard here. It's gonna go right hand. Wow. Generally you want to go left hand there, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, you could do it that way, but it just makes it a little bit harder. Really nice effort there from Brian Squire. That'll put him in a good spot as well. He should be really close to Ross Fulkerson.
That's a nice
Should be
slide
right
action
below
in the
him.
background there.
Yep, so he'll take
Maya's
that.
move.
He'll take that 2nd place spot now. Oh man, he was so close to sticking that too.
His left hand actually is the thing that came off first. That's interesting. So it looked like he would have stuck it if his left hand hadn't blocked.
Yeah, the span between that, the idea was to get your right hand where his left hand was on that hold, and the span there is quite long. It'd be very hard, even for a longer armed climber.
Yeah, which he only has a +2 and he's 5'9", so he's not really like super lanky.
Yeah, I feel for him. Me
Yeah.
neither.
Yeah, same. Me neither. AJ.
Huh? Are you talking to me? Sorry, I wasn't listening.
No, you're lanky.
Throwing shots.
Wasn't listening because
I was just
blocking out
being
the haters.
Envious of your lankiness. No big deal. It's all good.
Oh, are you throwing shade?
I'm throwing shade.
Really
It's not
sunny,
really
sunny
shade.
over here. Speaking of sunny, I miss my dog.
Aww.
You can see him in the gnarly commercial if you look really close in the bottom right side of your screen.
Nice.
Up next, Olivia Ma had a really great speed competition. Got 2nd. And made that upset of knocking Piper Kelly out of the 2nd place spot. Timmy Kang, psyched to be in the semis. One of the better sport climbers,
very
passionate climbers.
Probably the best looking climber in qualifiers yesterday.
Yeah.
He just climbed really well.
He has a really nice flow when he climbs.
Mhm.
He really finds body positions nicely. He's patient. He's got great technique, finger strength, kind of
good style.
Has it all.
Yeah.
We were talking with him a little bit after his runs about some of his training, and he was talking about some of the heart rate stuff that he does and how he would train with a heart rate monitor on just to learn what it feels like to be in that place and when he can kind of calm down. And those are the kinds of things that are really going to take our athletes to the world stage and make them competitive, is that extra level of detail.
Yeah, you really have to do everything you can to be as prepared as you can for anything. And that's one of the things in climbing that's always so interesting to start with, is that nothing's rehearsed. It's something new every time. You practice for movements and situations, but it's always new every time you come out to the field of play. So you got to be ready for everything, and you got to give yourself every advantage to do that.
Yeah.
It's that attention to detail too, that climbing and training for climbing is a relatively new sport, and training for climbing is extremely new, and there's so much science and science-backed knowledge that goes into training for a lot of other sports. So the fact that that's finally starting to take place in climbing, the heart rate stuff, the research, really specified, dedicated training is it's really cool to see because it's so new.
This move's hard.
Jim's having a little bit of a hard time in this section. This is surprising.
Yeah, look at him here, though. He's calm. He's like realizing he's trying. This move's hard. It's very tricky. It's insecure. But now here he is, breathing, relaxing. It's good.
Cool view. Nice angle here of both climbers on the wall at the same time.
Yeah. Olivia's looking good, too. Very, very relaxed. Come on, Tim.
I've never found I've been able to rest in a toe hook. I think there's still so much tension and strain on like the shin and the quad that for them they want to get their arms and hands depumped, but there's still so much like flexion happening in the lower part of your body. You're really not fully resting.
Yeah, that's kind of something that we talk a lot about when we're building or you know, accounting for the rest positions in the routes. It's like, okay, you know, obviously your forearms and your fingers and your arms are getting flamed the whole entire time, but if we're going to give you a rest position, it needs to tax a different area of your body, you know? Man.
Wow, really surprisingly low fall for Tim there.
Yeah, he just, you know, I'm surprised he was able to recover on the crimp lower down the way he was because he had to try that move so many times. It's always going to be rough for an athlete to come back from that.
Yeah, it was impressive that Ross was able to do that with his crazy wild windmill.
Yeah, Ross is,
that was insane. And when you try that hard, like he was probably giving 100% of his effort to just stay on the wall.
Yeah.
And so trying that hard zaps so much from you.
Yeah, I'm sure too, everything going through his mind, his qualification yesterday, he kind of had a little bit of a fumble low on the first route, and the second route I'm sure he didn't perform as well as he would have liked to. Wow, this is...
Whew. Really important to hit that clip there.
Yeah. Yeah, her right hand is really good, but still. Good effort.
Nice effort, yeah. I wonder if she was a little stressed about the fear of potentially skipping that clip. Good save, though. Yeah, that was a really good go from Olivia.
Yeah. She's aware of how high on the route she is.
You can usually tell from a lot of the noise from the crowd. We can't really hear with our headphones on. Yeah, we're going to take a quick break and we'll come back with the scores for Tim and Olivia, and stay tuned.
Whether you're alpine climbing or cragging after work, Gnarly Nutrition is here to help you push your possible.
Focus on fueling like you focus on your next set. Fuel with Gnarly Nutrition and push your possible.
Welcome back. We are into the climbing again, waiting for a few scores from when we last left you. Olivia Ma in that four-way tie for fourth place. Sadly, Ella Van Dungen not making it onto the women's semifinal route as Joe Goodacre makes his way up the men's semifinal route. That jump taking out, I think that's a third or fourth competitor.
Here's another look at it.
Oh, just missed it.
Yeah, the route
really
setters, we feel for
jump.
the competitors in these situations. It's definitely tough.
The thing, but like you said, Marshall, movements like that will appear in a World Cup. So
when the levels as high as they are at the World Cups, the route setters are doing everything they can to create a good event so that there can be, a good winner. And sometimes that means stressing them right out of the gate. And that's something they're going to see if they make it out of the venue tonight. So.
yeah, it's not really enough just to make things difficult because the level is so high. You also have to bring in some low percentage movements.
Risk, yeah.
And some, yeah, exactly, risk and ways to kind of keep people on their toes and kind of make them have to really dig deep and do something special in order to make it through.
And just be good. They're just good. They're all really good.
That's true.
And that's not to say anything
good.
about the competitors. That move is really challenging. It's super risky, but the level is just so high at the world stage.
Jennifer Von Dungen, Ella's mom, just trying to give her some words of wisdom after, a devastating semifinal. It's never fun to fall early on any route.
We saw Campbell over there too. I'm sure she wanted to be like, me too, dude.
You know, and I will say there is something
camaraderie.
When other people have to deal with the same thing. Really, he came out pretty far on that. He reeled that in nicely.
Yeah. He's high with only 2 minutes and 15 seconds
down. He climbed really well yesterday. He didn't climb so well on his first route, but then was able to get it together on the second one.
The little piano match, you can see his head getting thrown back too every time he does that move.
Oh,
throwing
so
his head
close.
Having to do that on holds. And right out of the knee bar lower down, you have to do that on a slopey hold, and it just gets you bricked immediately. And then you get to recover on some in cuts, and then you do it right again. It's hard.
A piano match like that is similar to doing, 4, 5, 6 movements.
Oh, yeah.
You're just moving. You're not grabbing new holds, but you're doing movements.
Yeah.
And you're adding so much stress into your lower body as well, being in that drop knee position. Take another look at him kind of struggling to match there. You just see him kind of inching over and over and then setting up. Gosh, he was trying to make room for all of them, but
nice job, Joe.
Really nice climbing from Joe Goodacre. That puts him into third place, so he's in a great position right now. Just 5 more men to go, so he'll be happy with that. And he was in the speed final. I believe he ended up 3rd, and then he was the speed national champion, and then the Pan American combined champion. So he's been having a really great year.
Yeah. Joe's impressive to watch. He's been around for some of our training camps in the past, and he also does a really good job of balancing kind of his vibe when he's out competing. Like, he's very supportive of the other competitors. He just makes it fun for everyone.
And he's been competing since he was so little, so it's like kind of second nature to him. And who can forget that bat hang he did at Nationals in bouldering? It's part of our open because it was just that good. And also Joe, total goofball. Always happy to have him around. Such good energy. Ellis Ernsberger is stepping up onto the men's semifinal as Quinn Mason sizes up this jump, which 5'8" is her height. Shouldn't be too difficult for her as she quickly went through it. 5'8" plus 2.
That's pretty much perfect.
Reach. That's amazing.
I think that is the perfect proportions. That's great. I'm like 5'9", and I feel like sometimes I'm just a little bit too big for stuff.
Yeah.
5'8" would be great.
I'm like 5'4" with a plus half-inch
feel
reach.
A little bit too small for stuff.
Although nowadays I look really tall because I walk around this place in platforms. I feel better about myself. If they can come up with platform climbing shoes, that might be great.
Sounds hard to use.
Extra inch of rubber on the bottom there.
It's not helpful. It doesn't do much. Only if you're like standing on a giant volume that's flat.
Quinn is our national champion in lead.
Also, she was the youth lead national champion. She got to end her youth career as a youth.
That's always awesome when you can do that.
Yeah, especially with that. So the one thing that's interesting is when these athletes move into the elite series of competition and they're coming from youth and they're still at the age to compete in youth, there's not as much pressure in the adult, but then when they go back to youth, there's more pressure when they've done well in the competitions. On the right side of the screen, Dawn, her dad is playing Ellis, not playing Quinn, so he is still volunteering, but definitely not able to belay the athlete that you're related to.
It's got to be help with nerves too, I guess, for him doing something. Maybe he doesn't want to watch, because I know watching someone that you care about is far more stressful than actually competing yourself. So maybe he's just like, nope, I can't watch. I don't want to know.
I've met a lot of parents over the years who like leave the venue. They like cannot watch their children climb.
Yeah, I was talking to a parent that was ISO monitor, and she was like, sometimes it's just better to be an ISO and not be watching.
Ellis setting up into that drop knee. Nicely done. Looks like, kind of from this angle, looked like he was wrapping a bit more on that sloper.
It's a good fight here.
Yeah, nicely into that crimp. It's cool to see more of the men getting up into this section now as we get to the higher ranked athletes in the round. Quinn just taking her time here. She was climbing slower than I would have thought yesterday. There was one route that kind of required you to go slower. She definitely took a second to look back at the clock to make sure, since timing was such an issue yesterday, everyone's kind of on it today to make sure they don't end up in a situation where they time out, because every hold matters, and if you're on the wall, you want to be getting rewarded for those points.
Come on.
Good fight by Ellis. He just missed that pink crimp with his right hand, so
but that should put
frictioning on the volume.
Also in a really good position, still kind of up around where Joe Goodacre was. Quinn's in that nice little rest spot. Just double checking with the judge here. Really taking a second to. Resting off that left hand. The right hand's nice to rest off of, but the left hand is not.
Is there a screw-on?
Yeah, there's little screw-ons or giblets on both of them, but the right one's like a pinch, so it's much better. The left one's kind of small, and your body position is kind of different. Nice little replay of Ellis there, fighting really hard to get on that right screw-on the volume. So yeah, that puts him in that same place. His brother.
These green holds don't have any giblets on them either, so
yeah,
they're really pumpy. You get some nice in-cut things, and then it builds quick.
She really kind of needs to get through this part. Oh, not able to make it happen there. She honestly looked a little more tired than I would have thought she would. I mean, she is another athlete. She already went through 3 rounds of bouldering. Ended up 5th in the bouldering round, and
only
just
one
looked
day
like
of
she
rest.
got a little too tired. Maybe rested a bit too much down low, because like I was saying earlier, there really aren't many real rests on that route. So she was doing one of those things where you're finding rests that aren't actually good rests. You're just kind of resting in these places, hoping that you can get something back, and like really good lead climbers can, and she's one of those. But maybe she did a little too much of that, because there is still so much more climbing to do on a lot of bad holds with no more real rests after that. So.
Yeah, the really experienced lead climbers, they know that diminishing return point where you're there, you've chalked up, you've composed, but it's time to go.
And that puts her in that tie, that 29
She's
plus
in the
tie. So
will that be broken up by countbacks?
It should be, but it's not reflecting that. So honestly, that I'm a little confused, to be honest. So
yeah,
it's supposed to reflect countbacks. So that is what it looks like right now, with Chloe Koskoy still hanging on to that ¡1 spot, followed by Kylie Cullen, Julia Duffy. And then on the men's side, Ross Fulkerson, Brian Squire, and Joe Goodacre, and Charlie. There's a big tie there for the men as well. Nora Chi just trying to figure out how she wants to approach this. Again, confidence is key here.
Yeah, Nora's good on the boulders too.
Yeah, she's very good on the boulders. I mean, she was at the Pan American Championships looking for a spot. Well, she couldn't look for a spot because the female spots for U.S. had already been taken up there, but she was looking to...
She's approached the wall. She's really...
She's hesitant.
She's stressed.
This is what you don't want to see.
There we go. Oh, no!
That's the exact thing that really
the
doesn't
second
work for you.
guessing, especially on moves like that, you cannot second guess. And again, I don't know what it is, but a lot of the women are not wanting to take more of a run up, where like that will only help you. I know it's kind of scary because you're running straight into the wall, but to have that extra momentum will get you jumping higher up. So when you hit the palm, you're at your optimal reach point to go into that green hold. Here's a little look back, and she jumps up, but she's just a little low. So
it's also really important when you run up to the wall to get a smear onto the wall with your foot to help propel you up towards the hold. And you can see she just jumped straight off the pads.
She kind of got a smear at the end, but it was like too late.
Yeah.
Sergey Lanko on the men's route looked awesome yesterday.
Sergey, he was fighting for sure in qualifiers. It was awesome to watch. Him and Ben Hanna were like the two really exciting performances in qualifiers.
Yeah, they were really exciting. Nora getting some love from her family and coaches after a devastating start and finish to the semifinal round. Definitely capable of doing so well on the route. And she came here just doing the lead. A lot of the athletes are still doing multiple disciplines, but when you're really committing to just doing the one, it's really even more upsetting because you have nothing else that you were fighting for. So
more pressure.
And a lot more pressure, yeah. It's so true.
Sergey also did really well at youth boulders this past year. He's kind of one of those climbers who's just getting his name out there, and he's someone to watch for sure.
Still young, too, 17 years old.
Yeah.
So
he's got a couple years in youth still.
And he was 20th in lead at Bouldering, at lead nationals.
He was 20th in lead at Bouldering.
Wouldn't that be interesting?
It would be.
He yesterday on I forget if it was his first quali or second quali, but he had a really scary clip moment where he was kind of high above it in a very precarious place and handled it so well. I almost couldn't watch. I was so nervous about it.
Wow, that is very, very hard that way.
That move, yeah,
yes.
Really
I've seen
impressive.
it done this way a few times, and that is crazy because it forces them to go straight into that right foot, and you have to do the heel and then match here.
The heel is good beta after the knee bar for sure, but it's just hard to skip it.
Oh yeah,
the knee bar
definitely adds an extra level to this route that's already so difficult, and especially going into this next section that is so strenuous and puts you in that position where you think you're going to fall the entire time.
A little too much gusto there. I think you want to do it a little slower.
Well, that move is crazy too because you're kind of trying to wrap and stand up into that undercling without falling out and barn dooring to the side. And especially after doing that powerful movement, you've zapped so much energy to do that
really
small
hard
muscle
layback
movement.
move.
Yeah.
You're really driving off that right foot to keep you against that smiley face hold. That's what we were calling it here for
like
you. The
smiley face.
The smiley.
I love all the secrets. He's in a four-way tie for 7th currently. So we'll see what happens with that after. That section is so tricky, and I feel like you have to be so perfect. Like the men we've seen get through that nicely, they've kind of done everything perfect, and even then it's still straining through there. But
here's Ben
Hanna and Kyra Condi. This will be exciting, and also likely to move a lot quicker than a lot of the other athletes who were climbing before. Kyra generally moves fast on the wall, and Ben does too. Actually, Ben was slower than I've ever seen him on the wall yesterday. He was really taking his time, but he did time out, so that will probably come into play. He'll probably try to be a bit more efficient and quick through this route. And like we were talking about earlier, excited to see him on this one because it's one we think he could do really well on. Kyra's sizing up this start.
Strong.
Straight into it.
Very bouldery start. And she's, I mean, usually a boulderer, but I think she's got a bright future in lead here.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's where she spends most of her time in the years to come.
Ben being very confident right now.
I feel like he generally climbs confidently, which is really cool to see.
Go
for it.
I was just going to say the intro of this has like it makes you hesitate, even if you are confident. It's very slippery.
Yeah. I was going to say he also had some crazy close calls yesterday on one of the routes. He handled it so well. I was very impressed by his problem solving in precarious situations where, like, he could have been seriously hurt if he didn't get some clips clipped. He had his leg wrapped around the rope in a very terrifying way for a bit, and he still just kept pushing through and figured it all out safely. So
that is a techie heel hook.
Oh my gosh. See, that's what I'm saying. He does very risky things, but he calmly makes his way through it.
Yeah, experienced competitor for sure.
Ben is someone I think who usually attacks the wall when he's climbing. And it's interesting to see him have to sort of like dial it down a little bit and try to stay really smooth
It's
here.
just a very delicate section. It's just really hard to do any of the moves quickly. You're on open-handed holds. You're on smeary feet.
That was something I was going to say too. Like over the last few years, I think especially when it comes to the lead discipline, it's something he's learned to really embrace and has grown a lot in that way in terms of how he approaches routes, and it's really served him well in terms of his results and the competitions he's been able to compete in because of how well he's been doing.
He has a deep breath right there.
Kyra looking really good here too, doing that cross method, but moving through it nicely. About to get into a nice spot where she can kind of rest for a second. We'll see if she takes a little bit of time there. She might not. Sometimes she just keeps going through.
Yeah. Sometimes it's for the best, you know?
It just depends on the climber. If you can gain...
Crushing the Ghiblies right there.
Yeah, you're really just crushing them. A little rest here.
Strong coming out of that toe hook by Ben. That move is so...
he just made it look so...
That is a really, really hard move.
Yeah. You got to hold your breath on that one.
He was 10th in lead at Nationals earlier this year, so again, trying to make that lead national team. He's already on the bouldering national team, so because of that, puts him in a good spot to possibly make the boulder in lead national team, which is really the team you want to get on because the athletes on that team will get to have first pick at getting into those World Cup competitions. Really good effort from Kyra Condi there.
That'll put her, I think, just above the bottleneck, so very pretty much securely in
a good
finals.
spot, yeah.
Sorry.
See if Ben, no, you're doing awesome. We really love having you in here with us, actually. It's been really great to hear all of your insight and kind of go through these routes with you.
Nice, thanks. I appreciate that. It means a lot. This foot move that he just did is really hard too. It's there's so much you don't see or feel as a viewer.
He's nicely set up for. Oh, he almost
just missed. He went to hit the hold and his fingers were already closed. He punched it.
He punched the hold right on where the bolt was, and then that was so close though. He almost was able to save it as well. Which again, something Ben does so well is when something goes wrong, he recovers. Here you can get another look at how he had his hands closed and he kind of like punches on the left side and then tries to come back down to that other hold. Another view here. It's really that like
just a little shy.
Just a little bit shy. That pointer finger specifically not being there. Ugh.
He's gonna be bummed about that.
Oh my gosh, he could have gotten so much farther on that route. Again, with climbing, anything can happen. I feel like that's the thing. It's like, even though you're so talented, it's like those mistakes that happen can really end up being the difference between making it into the final or not, even though you're definitely capable. Now he's in that big tie for 7th, which, depending on how other people do, he might be okay.
If it goes to countbacks, he'll be the highest ranked athlete sitting in 7th, but with Colin Duffy and Jesse Gruber left, it'll be close.
It's going to be a close one. We'll have to see what happens with those guys. But keeping it really exciting, really spicy here. Again, the routes that are here that y'all set are amazing. I think you guys did a wonderful job really challenging the athletes, but also like making it so it is possible. But it's nice to see people try hard. I mean, the last thing you want is to see people with 7 tops. Would you say that's the worst? Like, I mean...
Yeah, I mean, I think most of us would agree that we'd rather see 0 tops than 4 tops. We don't want to take away someone's opportunity to win. And making the route too easy is the fastest way to do that. But we also, we always will set a route that we know is possible for someone in the field, you know. It's never turned up so much that it's ridiculous. It really just requires, I mean, it's ridiculous, obviously, but they're ridiculous, so.
Yeah,
you know.
They're ready for it.
Yeah.
And Colin Duffy is one of those athletes who is capable of topping this route. He qualified for the Olympics, absolutely crushed while he was there. He was 7th at the Olympic Games. He also got his first World Cup medal this past season in Villar with a 3rd place finish there. really blossoming as an elite athlete on this circuit and already on the bouldering team, looking to make that lead team. And the bouldering lead team. Yeah. Yep, second place in bouldering. It's actually interesting because at nationals, he was first in bouldering, second in lead. And now he was second in bouldering, so I bet he's looking for that #1 spot in lead here.
Always looking for the #1 spot.
That's true, he is.
Set him up really nicely to make the team again for sure.
Ooh, nice. Almost didn't get that foot up there.
Yeah, you just slow down in this section. You're not exactly sure.
Oh, the tension with that right foot.
On the smear, too. The smear tension is never guaranteed.
Makes me so nervous. Megan Lynch on the left had an incredible qualification round, had the high point on her first route for the majority of the day, and then was able to top her second route. And again, one of the athletes who we primarily see in the bouldering, but really shining in the lead this weekend. She moved to Massachusetts. She trains at CRG in Watertown. The walls there, actually was talking to her about it yesterday, very, very tall, very, very steep. And she said she really noticed the fact that training on that wall and then coming here and having some less steep angles, she found that she had a lot more in the tank than she has ever had at other competitions. So sounds like that move was good for her.
Come on, Colin.
Looking really casual.
There's so much security in being able to stand on your feet, some of these lower angle head walls. So when you get pumped in the steep, the second you kind of get up to the head wall and you can put a little more weight on your feet, it has to feel really nice.
Ooh, that was kind of scary. I thought he was going to have a little more swing than that. It was a very nice, subtle release, enough to control that swing and swing into that knee bar, because we've seen some of the athletes hold the toe too aggressively and then really swing out and not be able to hold it. So that took so much skill, even though he made it look like nothing.
Yeah, both those holds are slightly rotated to the left, too. So as your hips rotate to the left, there's nothing keeping you into the wall. There's no opposition. You're just pulling really hard, trying. Colin.
Megan also looking really casual here.
She looks really good.
Yeah, and this is what I was noticing yesterday. Like, I have never seen her look like she has this much energy still to be able to make those moves. Like, she's very, very so strong, but she's making those moves look like she's just bouldering. Nice.
She has a smear.
Not on the foot, yeah.
And this actually might be the better clipping stance. We saw Chloe clip off the green hold, but that's actually the better clipping stance. Colin just needs to do the match here on the right.
Finally.
Just trying to get that piano match. We saw that close-up of Joe Goodacre.
Oh my God, that's so hard.
She's barely makes it to that screw on. Megan looking really good. Few options here. We'll see if she takes a dynamic approach.
Colin's going to be, he's looking good right now.
I mean,
new overall or new leader.
No, not yet.
Oh, right.
He has to get up a few more holes.
Yes.
Ross was in there.
Shake here.
Megan looks like she's in a good spot. Gonna go with the heel hook here, which, too tired to do that, so she might have to go dynamically, which again, hard after all those moves.
Colin is fighting right now. They're both fighting right
now. Get control. So new high point here. Let's see if she can get the next one.
Nice.
Awesome climbing from Megan Lynch. Colin not able to get control of that blue pill hole. Amazing climbing from both athletes.
Some sports.
Real sports action
here.
Sports
show right here.
Sports. Megan doesn't even realize that she has the high point. She's like, I did okay. I think
thumbs down.
She doesn't. It's because she doesn't. She has no idea that she got that far, and now that she has the high point, I think, especially because she hasn't been in this situation in the lead discipline where she's kind of setting the standard. So when she came down, she just had a feeling that everyone else before her probably did better because they've had better lead competitions previously, but currently she's in the lead. So looking at your top three for the men and the women, Megan Lynch, Chloe Koskoy, a tie between Kyra Condi and Kylie Cullen. And then on the right, Ross Fulkerson, Colin Duffy, and Brian Squire in the top three.
Julia Duffy still holding strong. She's guaranteed a final spot now. That she was one who came out really early, who I thought qualified very, very low.
Yeah, abnormally low for her, for sure. Just two more climbers to go. Melina Costanza and Jessie Grouper are next. And that'll be wrapping up the semifinals after their climbs, with us coming back to you later for finals. Climbers will start at 6 p.m. Broadcast will start around 5:45. Hope you'll join us there. If you thought this was exciting, just wait for those finals routes, right, Marshall?
Yeah, they're sick.
Melina looking psyched to get out here and climb. She looked really great yesterday. I know she wanted to top both the routes, got so close to topping both of them. She topped one of them and fell off the finish of the other. Jesse Grouper, your lead national champion.
Definitely dominant on a rope, for sure.
Very dominant, and this is a style of climbing that he is so good at. And I was talking about it earlier. He did technically get to the top of both routes yesterday. He just wasn't awarded the top for the other one because he ran out of time. But
which one did he time out on? Was it
the left one?
The techie one.
And nobody got up. He's so good at technical climbing. Right on to the route. No hesitation there. She is the bouldering national champion and just got third this week in bouldering and is on that national team. She's really excited about being able to compete on the circuit. She's only ever done Vail, I believe. So
no World Cups.
No, she hasn't done any of them. You're right. She's done a lot of Youth World Cups. She took a little break, so she missed out on some of those other ones in the country. But to be able to go out and compete at all of them, it's such a good learning experience and really sets you up to be successful in them.
Her last year in youth, she won nationals, and it was actually in this gym. And thought that might have been the last time she was ever going to compete. So she said she was really excited to come back and compete again in the last spot that she won.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Albuquerque North American Cup was the first time that she competed, but I talked to her a little bit after that event, and she was talking about taking a break, and she's climbing very well right now. Clearly did some good for her. Sometimes you need that.
And was absolutely dominant in Albuquerque. We saw the rest of the field get halfway up the route, and she completely walked it all the way to the top.
Boulders too. I mean, in both disciplines, just climbed very, very well.
That's what you like to see in an athlete who's trying to make the boulder lead team to go over and do World Cups, dominant in both disciplines.
And we got a few sound bites from her the other day when she was talking about what that would mean to her and how excited she is to be here. So, and have that opportunity, we should listen to that.
To make the national team, for me, it would be an opportunity to travel around the world, to be with some of these people on the U.S. team, which would be amazing, and then to be able to go to all the World Cups, to be able to be in that environment, I think would just be a completely next level opportunity and experience in general, and I think that would be amazing.
And she's well on her way to doing that already on the bouldering team, so trying to get a spot on the lead team, and then by way of doing that, the boulder and lead team. And also, it's not just being able to compete, but also getting the funding to be able to do it and not have to figure out your way to have to pay for yourself, because like you and I, when we were doing those competitions, that didn't really exist in the same way, and it's a lot easier, not easier, but you only have to worry about the climbing when you don't have to worry about the financial aspect of it, and that's really awesome that these athletes have that opportunity to just focus on the climbing.
Yeah, it probably puts less pressure on you too when you're out there performing, because you're not like running a business in the back of your head. You're not like, oh man, I'm hitting one. It lets you be a little bit more relaxed.
And the Boulder Plus Lead combined athletes do have priority to the World Cups. We are trying to sort of invest in these athletes to move into the Olympics for Paris 2024.
Sweet.
And even the competition this week, like, it's going to go where you'll do the boulders first and then the lead. So to have the practice here in that format for these athletes who want to go for that combined event and have dreams of Paris 2024, it's good for them to have that practice here. Melina looking so casual here. It's making me really excited because I think we'll be able to see her try this last move that I've been telling everybody about, a nice big last move to the finish.
You said it was hard and a little bit scary.
I thought it was terrifying. I almost didn't try it. I felt like y'all had to really, I could hear Brad being like, we got you, because I was like about to just be like, nope, I'm too scared. She's checking the time, has plenty of time left.
Jesse's looking very, very good right now.
Very smooth through here.
There's a missing bolt here. It would be very, very hard to clip, but this part gets very spicy without having this thing clipped.
You can see how far the run out is between the last clip and the clip with the blue X's. So that's the clip that they have to clip from that blue pull hold before moving on, and it would be a massive fall.
Jessie is looking very good right now. You get a decent shake right here, but the pump is definitely on you. You're on a big sloper, and a very, very powerful move up to this volume.
Melina getting set up to do this dynamic move. If she can do it, then she'll be ready to set up for the final move. Oh, if they do these final moves at the same time, that would be so cool.
Yeah, this is an exciting show right here.
Little slip there, nice recovery for Jessie. Good wrap there.
Yeah.
Now the men's finish not as dynamic. Let's see if she does it dynamic or if she can reach. She is a lot.
Strong.
She's very tall too, so you're able to do it not dynamically.
Yes, good top.
Great top for Melina Costanza. Exactly what she wanted to do. Definitely into the final. Really
Jessie
beautiful
getting
climbing.
into the stem section.
I love that this is
the hip ability here.
It's like a slab boulder top. It's awesome.
And then to have to clip the top from the press.
Very nice.
The little rope drag there.
Really, really,
wow,
really
perfect.
awesome to see. Yeah,
top for the men, top
very
for the women.
First place,
huge
and at the same time.
Very excited right now.
I gotta go out on. I mean, it's not much of a limb, but I've got to say the setting might have been perfect.
Yeah, we're very psyched right now for sure. Ecstatic. Look at them all.
They're
jumping up
just
and down.
jumping up and down.
That's either beaming smiles under their mouths right now.
I think JB might be the most expressive out of that whole group.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh my gosh, guys, we did it!"
Jesse's
that was my
psyched.
impression.
Wow,
JB.
perfect. That was perfect.
It was
top seed come out. Both for the men and the women.
And also it wasn't, I mean, they climbed beautifully, but they also had to fight. It's not like they just walked it. So it's nice to see that the level was there. Melina getting a hug from her mom, Michelle Costanza, always here to support. So Jessie Grouper getting that total of 40 points with the top. And Melina Costanza also getting the top for the women. And both of them going into the final, which is going to be really exciting. Will we see more tops?
I don't know. I hope so.
I hope so too.
The roots are nails, that's for sure. But these kids are strong, so or adults, I guess.
Some adults, some kids.
Yeah, little mix.
Really, really exciting stuff. I mean, I was sweating there at the end. That was so nerve-wracking. I love that the men's finish is so much like a boulder problem. It was legit like a slab boulder problem after all that climbing. Very cool. And different from what you normally see on a route. And it's kind of nice because it goes well with the women's start being something more like what you would see in boulders. So you're starting with the women's and then finishing with the men's. And very bouldery routes that require a lot of endurance. And I don't know,
a lot of experience too.
So much experience.
Knowing what to do in those hard to read sequences.
Yeah. Here's a look at how people did if you want to check out where they fell and how it all played out. I actually love this edition. You can actually see this in the live scoring if you click that little picture, just so you can get a little look at what's going on. And everything's better visually than just scores. It makes a lot more sense when you see it visually.
Definitely.
Yeah, I love where you can see the breakdown here. A couple little bottlenecks, but nothing really extreme.
Also, I'm so happy that Melina was able to do that last move more static. I had a feeling if you could get high enough and you had good enough height and reach that you could make that happen. So it made it definitely more controlled and secure to go to that finish hold. It's a good hold, but jumping to it after all that climbing would have been a little more risky. And actually, I'm not surprised she did that because at Rope Nationals, she did jump to a finish, and that's actually what cost her first place. So that was probably kind of playing into how she approached that, so that she was definitely walking away with that number one spot. Yeah. Because that was wild, right? Because Quinn topped it static, and then Melina just went for it and came off and was like, oh no.
Yeah, she was looking very confident too when she was up there at Nationals. So
really good effort. Awesome. I'm just so psyched. I can't wait to see what's going to happen later on today. I can't wait to get a look at the routes. That's what Alex and I will be doing during the break. We'll be following along behind the route setters, being like, okay, so what about this point? What about that point?
Yeah.
I don't know. You're going to throw your shoes on?
Try it out.
Maybe.
Yeah?
Nice.
I'm done climbing for the week. I'm so tired.
I know, having you, four-ran yesterday and having your insight onto the route actually is really helpful.
I mean, it's super fun to be able to, like, get up there and try the moves, and also even knowing when parts are scary, which, like, I think in the competition zone you don't think about it as much, but definitely when you're on it and there's nothing on the line, you're like, ooh, I don't know.
Definitely.
And you guys, they took a bunch of test falls.
Yeah.
It was,
I remember at Nationals a couple of years ago, Sport Nationals, there was this qualifier route with this foot lead finish, and you had to invert totally at the anchor and then flip all around, and I drew the short end of the stick and had to take the test falls on it to make sure it was safe, and it was scary for sure.
Oh my gosh, that's so scary. Oh man,
we have a really, really exciting field going into finals too. I think
an amazing field. I mean, one of
no
the
surprises.
Strongest. No real surprises. I think a lot of athletes perform the way they should have. Yeah, if you take a look at it, a lot of familiar names. Megan Lynch actually walked over here and pulled down her mask and was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I was in second. What?" Pretty cool to see her surprised, even though we weren't. Lots of really strong lead climbers and really strong boulders. I mean, when I looked at the route yesterday for the women, I was like, oh, this is something Kyra will definitely crush. Like, this is a route that's so in her wheelhouse. And then again, on the right side with the men, lots of familiar names. Cool to see people perform to their ability. Ross Fulkerson, for example, had some mishaps yesterday, qualified a bit lower, but stellar performance with multiple saves on that route and holding on to that high point for a really long time.
He really fought his way through all that, and this second place is well deserved.
Incredible, so incredible, and it must make him feel really good about his training. Like, obviously it's great to be able to get up climbs, but also to handle mistakes that happen and continue on and be successful. That's when you know you're really prepared.
Yeah, you can get a little bit of a look at the finals routes here on the wall. One thing that's really cool, spoil a surprise for you guys, is there's a shared start between both genders for finals. It'll be really fun to watch.
Yeah, the first time we've seen that. That'll be really exciting.
Yeah.
I can't wait to take a look at it. So right now, there is always time for appeals, so we just wait to see if the final results are official, but currently those are your unofficial results, barring any appeals. But let's take another look at that Prudential commercial that featured the one and only Alex AJ Johnson, sitting 2 to my right.
Or just us. You know,
or just us, you know. Hey, we're great
we
too.
can replay it. All we've seen, I think, for years, decades, is like men doing really awesome things, like getting these accolades, and all of a sudden, like women, it's like we're doing the same thing and maybe doing it better.
It is a time to really dial in and focus on how much women have accomplished.
We have to make sure that we just take care of each other, uplift each other.
I want to see women's sport invested in at the same levels as men's sports.
Just very thankful for all of the pioneers that was before us, but very thankful for all the opportunities that's ahead of us.
An awesome little package there from Prudential. And did you get to pick who you brought out with you? I thought it was so cool that you're bringing these women out who've never climbed before, and they were like very capable, talented athletes in other sports. How did that all come about?
So we wanted to make this piece for like Women's History Month and have it be all about uplifting women, and so a way to do that, I think climbing as a sport, there's so much camaraderie in it, and you're competing, but it's still an individual sport, and so it's really easy to uplift and, you know, sort of help and cheer for everyone. And so bringing all these women out from all these different and unique sports, like tech ball, which I'd never heard of before, which just got inducted in the Olympics for 2028, I think.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing to have these conversations and talk about, you know, like trials and tribulations and struggles and successes in each of our different respective sports. It was a really amazing weekend.
And I bet for some of them too, coming from team sports, to have that experience in an individual sport must have been really special as well.
Yeah, and they've never rock climbed before. I mean, like getting to the top of something, it's like such an obvious victory.
Yeah.
Which it's just, it was really exciting to see them all do it.
Back.
Yeah, totally.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of awesome things, let's go to the YETI moves of the day, because obviously there are some great ones. And starting with, of course, Mr. Ross Fulkerson with this incredible save, just like a few clips into the roof. I mean, so much helicoptering to control that. And that view is even crazier. He came so far out from the wall. I mean, the finger strength.
And like half a pad edge with his fingertips.
And the ability to then just take a moment to rest. And then Melina Costanza here making the smart move here, getting that foot up, crossing over to the top, easily making that top, but having to fight through the lower sections and making amazing decisions with her climbing. Really looking forward to seeing her in the final. Awesome climbing from
she
both
looked super
Melina
good all day.
And Ross Fulkerson. They looked amazing today. I can't wait to see them tonight. We'll be back at 6 p.m. So, with that, we have our final standings for the women. Your finalists will be Melina Costanza, Megan Lynch, Chloe Koskoy, Kyra Condi, Kylie Cullen, Julia Duffy, Nakaya Sanders, and Quinn Mason.
Awesome to
not
see
really,
Nakaya.
Yeah, I was going to say not really any surprises, but to see Nakaya in there is amazing. She had such a great week. And for the men, Jesse Grouper, Ross Fulkerson, Colin Duffy, Brian Squire, Joe Goodacre, Charlie Osborne, Ellis Ernsberger, and Isaac Left. Another strong crew of men. I think it's going to be so exciting. Marshall, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so glad you stayed this whole time. That was awesome. It was so fun to go. No. We were holding you hostage. The rest of the crew's like, Marshall, you haven't been helping us. What are you doing? No, it was so great. Your insights were awesome. It's so fun to run through the routes with you. Thanks everyone for joining us. Remember, we will be back for the finals tonight. Me and Alex Johnson. I'm Megan Martin, and we will have that show for you starting at 6 p.m. Lots of sports action, lead climbing, big falls, great saves. Good try hard.
Can't wait.
Thanks for joining us. Please come back later tonight.
Since 1966, we have viewed walls not as obstacles, but as opportunities. From the big walls of Yosemite to the high peaks of the Himalaya, we were searching for a personal kind of freedom. In this pursuit, we found a community, strengthened by different stories, experiences, and perspectives. This community has shown us that the only way forward is together.
Got nothing better to do. Might as well go climbing, right?
Remember when no dream was too big? And you could fearlessly face the unknown. You still can. When you have a rock you can depend on for life, you'll be unstoppable. Like the millions of people who rely on Prudential for financial planning and investing. Who's your rock?
We fight the battles no one hears about.
We drop into the middle of firefights to rescue others.
And act as one-man air traffic control towers.
We're the ones who go before all others. Join the fight.
Whether you're alpine climbing or cragging after work, Gnarly Nutrition is here to help you push your possible.
Focus on fueling like you focus on your next set. Fuel with Gnarly Nutrition and push your possible.